Chapter 2451. Yuan Kuang was after all still young, and he had always been pampered by Battle King and General's wife. Naturally, he didn't know how to conceal his own emotions. Disgust was disgust. Hatred was hatred. Yiqing Luo met with Yuan Kuang's resentful gaze as her fingertips brushed past her pink lips as she gave a chilly smile. Miss K. No wonder you're the little prodigy who is pampered by General Battle King. Using the token to pass a fake order, this can be considered as violating military discipline. She curved her long and narrow eyes as she looked at Gu Jingyu with a smile. Young sect master Gu, do you think Battle King's token can be stolen so easily? Little Prince can steal the Battle King's token and run to the army to pass a fake military order. Then, would he have done this frequently in the past? Gu Jingyu placed the token aside as he replied solemnly. Battle King's token is equivalent to a tiger talisman. Such an important thing. General Battle King actually doesn't know how to keep it safe and even allowed his own son to mess around. This young sect master is also very suspicious. Is this really Little Prince's first time doing this? Battle King's heart, which had just calmed down, was instantly tensed up again. Originally, he thought that Yuan Kuang would shoulder this matter alone. At most, he would only be charged with the crime of not being strict in discipline. And Yuan Kuang was after all still young and didn't know much. After scolding him for a while, the matter of the chase was over. But unfortunately, Yiqing Luo directly escalated it to the military discipline aspect. Whether it was him making use of the soldiers to seek revenge for his son, or Yuan Kuang stealing the Battle King's token to pass a fake military order. If this matter were to be spread, not only would his Battle King's face be disgraced, the royal family would also use this as a pretext to stir up trouble. This consequence was unimaginable. This duke is the future Battle King. So what if I have the Battle King's token? Anyway, it will belong to this duke. I'm just borrowing it in advance. Yuan Kuang had never thought of how serious the consequences would be, whether it was the Battle King's token or those soldiers. When he grew up, it would all belong to him. However, those words caused the Battle Monarch's complexion to turn green and white. He immediately grabbed Yuan Kuang's shoulder. Shut up. Yuan Kuang was as fat as a meatball, so how could the Battle Monarch hold him firmly? Father, what I said is the truth. Yuan Kuang twisted his body away and snorted nonchalantly. I told you to shut up. Warlord angrily raised his hand and slapped Yuan Kuang. He was about to be angered to death by his son. Gu Jingyu was the young sect master of South Billow Continent. The young sect master of the South Billow Continent saw this scene as a joke. When Gu Jingyu returned to the South Wave Continent, wouldn't their Warlord mansion become the laughingstock of the South Tide Continent? Even the Northern Wave Continent would be looked down upon. The Battle King's mansion would also become a sinner. It was even more impossible for the royal family to let them go so easily. Although, judging from the current situation of the Northern Wave Continent, the Warlord's mansion did indeed have a high position and authority. But this was all because the imperial family did not have an honorable excuse to suppress the Warlord's residence. But now, Gu Jingyu coldly glanced at the Battle King and stood up. His voice was as warm as ever, but there was a hint of coldness in it. General Battle King, it seems that today's visit will have to end here. 3 ladies, I'll send you off. Yiqing Luo took a look at the Battle Monarch as her lips curled into a meaningful sneer. Immediately, she pulled Jun Qingwu and Kitty Li and followed behind Gu Jingyu and left. Warlord grabbed Yuan Kuang's arm tightly. Chapter 2452. The guide was Gu Jingyu. No one in the Battle King's residence dared to stop them. The few of them swaggered out of the Battle King's residence. The commoners were astonished when they saw Yiqing Luo and the rest walking out. They were even more curious about the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Battle King's residence. The few of them walked all the way to the Peach Blossom restaurant under the attention of the commoners. Only then did they block those gazes outside. Yiqing Luo then opened her mouth. Young matriarch Gu, thank you for today. If it wasn't for Gu Jingyu's arrival, if it wasn't for Gu Jingyu who broke his persona and stood up for her, although it wasn't that they couldn't leave the Battle King's residence, at least it wouldn't be so smooth, and it wouldn't make the Battle King dig his own grave. There was no need for her to lead intentionally. Today's matter in the Battle King's residence would definitely be spread out through some channels. You know, what I want is not your thanks. Gu Jingyu's brows regained his gentleness and elegance. That pair of eyes was so gentle as though it contained a pool of warm water. The two people beside him, upon hearing this sentence, suddenly opened their eyes wide. They looked at Yi Qing Luo in unison and then looked at Gu Jingyu. They were stunned for quite some time. Jun Qingwu's hand slowly moved onto Yi Qing Luo's body. Her slender fingers pinched fiercely on her waist, as though she was questioning her what was going on. As though she was questioning her what was going on. Yi Qing Luo was also stunned. Hadn't she resolutely pinched this peach blossom? Why did Gu Jingyu still say such ambiguous words? This was to make Xiao Wu and Mao Mao misunderstand the rhythm. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, raised her eyes, and stared straight into Gu Jingyu's eyes. Young matriarch Gu, what I can give you is only a word of thanks. Saying that, she directly turned around and walked towards the direction of the backyard. Gu Jingyu's expression froze for a moment. He hurriedly chased up a few steps. Missy, I don't have any other intention. I just want to see. Master Gu. Jun Qingwu had already blocked in front of Gu Jingyu. She raised her head slightly. That cool and elegant face had no fluctuations of emotions. His eyes were filled with coldness, and there was a gloomy luster in them. Gu Jingyu stopped in his tracks. Miss, I don't care what you think about Xiao Luo. I'm warning you, you better stifle it. Jun Qingwu warned coldly. Gu Jingyu pursed his thin lips, a look of struggle and reluctance on his face. Even though you're Miss Ye's friend, you can't stop me from loving Miss Mu Yi. I forgot to mention, I'm not just Xiao Luo's friend. Jun Qi-Wu smirked. I'm also Xiao Luo's fiancé's friend. Fiancé. Gu Jingyu's body trembled and stiffened. Looking at Gu Jingyu's reaction, Jun Qi-Wu also knew about Dizun. Qing Luo must have told Gu Jingyu about this. Jun Qi-Wu's smile grew colder. So, I'm sure you know why I'm with little Luo. Gu Jingyu's face was filled with disbelief. A pained expression appeared on his face. He stood stiffly on the spot, motionless. It was as if he was unable to recover from the pain. Jun Qi-Wu casted a cold glance at him, as he couldn't be bothered to talk to him. He pulled Kitty Li and walked towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo had left. Miss! Behind him, Gu Jingyu's dry and hoarse voice was heard. Jun Qi-Wu turned his head back and met with Gu Jingyu's sorrowful gaze. Chapter 2453. Jun Qi-Wu. This child still didn't believe her? She was amused. Young sect master Gu, do you think I would joke around with little Luo's innocence? Gu Jingyu hurriedly shook his head. I don't mean that, I just... Stop. Jun Qi-Wu stopped smiling and raised his hand to stop him. I don't care what you mean. If you have any other intentions towards Xiao Luo, then, if you see Xiao Luo in the future, please take a detour. She didn't wait for Gu Jingyu's reply and walked straight ahead. After a few steps, she suddenly thought of something and glanced sideways. Her gaze congealed on Gu Jingyu's face. Today you've helped little Luo. Let me thank you on her behalf. When little Luo's fiancé comes over, he will repay you. Missy, her fiancé, is coming to the northern continent? Gu Jingyu felt as though his throat was blocked by something. His heart was aching with pain and bitterness. Jun Qingwu gave a cold smile. Yes. After sending Gu Jingyu away, Jun Qingwu pulled Kitty Li and rushed to Yi Qing Luo's room. Both of them had an interrogative look on their faces. Yi Qing Luo sat on the chair, holding a peach for her to investigate the latest news regarding the Miao Stockade village. Seeing the two people's aggressive looks, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qing Luo put down the information and raised her hands in surrender. Heaven and earth can be my witness. I absolutely did not flirt with him, and I absolutely did not give him any chance. Jun Qingwu narrowed her eyes. Really? If you didn't give him a chance, would he chase you all the way to the Battle King's residence? I'm innocent. Yi Qing Luo exaggerated her grievance. I told him clearly, I'm a married woman. Following that, she spoke in a righteous tone. Moreover, which man in this world can be compared to my Xian? Am I blind or brain damaged to go flirt with other men? Jun Qingwu. Damn it. She was just interrogating someone, and yet she was stuffed with dog food? Kitty Lee expressed that she was already used to it. Seeing Jun Qingwu's twitching lips, Yi Qingluo blinked and coquettishly hugged Jun Qingwu's arm. Xiao Wu, let's discuss something. Jun Qingwu squinted at her. Don't worry, I won't say anything. I knew it. Little Wu Wu is my revolutionary comrade. Yi Qingluo beamed with joy and hugged Jun Qingwu's waist. Jun Qingwu put on a fake smile and said, I didn't say it because I didn't want to mess up Di Zun's plan because of you. Yi Qingluo didn't let go of her waist. When Xian returns, if Gu Jingyu still has any thoughts towards me, I'll bring Xian to show off our affection in front of him, to make him give up on this idea. The Overlord is not as senseless as you. Jun Qingwu couldn't imagine the image of DMO Xian and Yi Qingluo showing off their love everywhere. Yi Qingluo expressed that if it was picking peach blossoms, Xian, that vinegar jar, would definitely cooperate. Regarding the matter regarding the Battle King's residence, it was indeed as Yi Qingluo had expected. It had only been 6 hours since the incident happened. The imperial family sent someone to the Battle King's mansion to question Yuan Kuang about the matter of him stealing the Battle King's medallion and forging a military order. It was only in the wee hours of the morning that he was insulted by a corpse hanging at his door. In the afternoon, the Battle King's mansion was sealed off by the imperial family's guards. The Battle King's family was also forcibly brought to the imperial palace. After all, this matter concerned the peace and safety of the northern continent. Forging a military order was a big deal. It was a big deal, no matter how illustrious the Battle King's battle achievements were, no matter how high the Battle King's status was. Chapter 2454. This was because the moment the Battle King showed any signs of resistance in the eyes of the royal family, in the eyes of the major forces of the Northern Wave continent, the War King was rebelling. If they rebelled, it would definitely affect them. This also meant that if the Battle Monarch resisted, he would be offending all the powers in the Northern Wave continent. The War King knew that it was a tiger's den ahead. However, he could only lead the general's wife and Yuan Kuang to the palace for investigation. This news quickly spread to Yi Qingluo's ears. Qingluo, if Battle King were to push everything onto Yuan Kuang, or perhaps Yuan Kuang and General's Madam, it's not that Battle King can't make a comeback. After Peach relayed the information she had received, she said worriedly, after all, the Battle Monarch didn't gain power in the Northern Wave continent overnight. After Yi Qingluo heard this, she sneered disapprovingly. If the royal family really gave Battle King a chance to make a comeback, the Northern Continent's royal family would be a joke. The Battle King's mansion had always been a thorn in the side of the imperial family. Now, the opportunity to get out of the eyesore was right in front of him. How could the people of the royal family give a thorn in their side a chance to turn things around? As for the Battle King's mansion, there was nothing worthy of her attention. The imperial family definitely won't give the Battle King a chance. At least during the Qingyue sect master's birthday celebration, the Battle King won't be able to cause any trouble. Peach nodded in agreement. He mentioned the Qingyue sect master's birthday banquet. Peach suddenly thought of something. That's right, Qingluo, sect master Qingyu's birthday is coming soon. Do you want to go together? Go, of course I'll go. Yi Qingluo nodded smilingly. Looking at Yi Qingluo's smile, Peach shivered. You, what are you trying to do? That's the birthday banquet of the Qingyue sect leader. Yi Qingluo raised her finger and shook it, putting on an unfathomable look. The Miao tribe will definitely attend Qingyue sect's patriarch's birthday banquet. Miao Rongrong was poisoned because of me, so of course I have the obligation to see her. Peach expressed that she was not that naive and would never believe Yi Qingluo's nonsense. Yi Qingluo shrugged her shoulders. Miao Rongrong took a bottle of antidote from her. According to Miao Rongrong's personality, she was afraid of death. It was probably not enough for her to last 10 days. Perhaps, in 7 days at most, the antidote would be consumed. Coincidentally, it was the day of the banquet. It was the last day Miao Rongrong needed the antidote. How could she not follow along to watch such an exciting show? I have quite a number of invitations here. Let's go together. Peach didn't continue to ask what Yiqing Luo was going to do at the birthday banquet. Based on her understanding towards Yiqing Luo, although Yiqing Luo's character was arrogant and unbridled, but she was very clear under what circumstances, what could be done and what couldn't be done. At Qinghua Sec's sovereign's birthday banquet, Yiqing Luo would definitely not do anything shocking. With this thought in mind, Peach bade farewell and left the room. Not long after, Peach realized how naive she had been. A few days passed by quickly. As the birthday celebration approached, the entire Joy City was enveloped in a joyous atmosphere. These few days, Yiqing Luo had been cooped up in the Peach Blossom restaurant. Occasionally, he would listen to the current situation of the Miao Stockade village from Peach. But most of the time, she would hole up in the secret room and run into the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate. It had already been a very long time since she had cultivated within the Azure Dew bracelet, nor did she climb the Purgatory Tower. Old Man Song had said this before. With her current strength. Chapter 2455. Yiqing Luo also planned to find some time to conquer the 3rd and 4th floor of the Purgatory Tower in one go and get the rewards for those 2 floors. At this moment, Yiqing Luo was on the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. She had already spent a total of 3 days on the 3rd floor, and she hadn't stopped to rest. This difficulty was many times higher than the 2nd floor of the Purgatory Tower. After spending so much time, it couldn't be said that the 3rd story was too difficult for Yiqing Luo. Instead, it was the 3rd level, which relied on overwhelming numbers. No matter how strong Yiqing Luo's speed and acute senses were, under attack from all sides, it was inevitable that it would be a little strenuous, if it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo's physique was good. In addition, he had the divine dragon furnace to refine elixirs that could replenish his elemental energy. 3 days of consumption. Yiqing Luo was still able to hold on. But as time went on, to Yiqing Luo, it was getting more and more strenuous. After all, she was still a human. As for the Purgatory Tower, it was just an illusory thing. There would not be any life forms. It was until the 4th day when Yiqing Luo finally succeeded in clearing the stage as she fell onto the ground in exhaustion. The floor of the Purgatory Tower hadn't been cleaned yet. There were corpses and blood everywhere. It dyed Yiqing Luo's clothes red. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered. She just wanted to rest. However, she had just closed her eyes. Old Man Song's joyful voice entered her ears. "Little girl, congratulations on passing the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower." After some time, he didn't hear any response from Yiqing Luo. Old Man Song's spirit body floated outside the Purgatory Pagoda. "Girl, what are you doing in there? Why isn't he out yet?" Yiqing Luo still didn't reply. Old Man Song's expression suddenly became serious. His spirit body quickly rushed into the Purgatory Pagoda. He saw the young girl lying in a pool of blood. The girl's entire body was battered and exhausted. Her entire body was dyed red with blood. Her eyes were closed, and she was motionless. This scene shocked Old Man Song until his heart almost jumped out of his throat. He speedily flew to Yiqing Luo's side as his eyes were filled with worry. Last Luo. Last Luo. He wanted to carry Yiqing Luo, but the white fog-like hand was unable to touch Yiqing Luo. He was just a spiritual body that could not embrace a human in its arms. Cauldron Dragon. Cauldron Dragon. Old Man Song clenched his fists and flew towards the direction of the divine dragon cauldron at lightning speed. "Do you have any elixirs in your cauldron that can heal internal injuries and replenish profound strength?" The patterns on the body of the cauldron moved slightly. 1 pill. It floated above the cauldron. The golden light caused the entire interior of the Azure Dew bracelet to be extremely bright. The pills slowly floated into Old Man Song's illusory palm. Old Man Song couldn't touch humans, but he could touch everything within the Azure Dew bracelet. Holding the pill, Old Man Song returned to the third floor of the Purgatory Tower. Luo girl, I got a divine-grade medicinal pill from Calder Dragon. Eat it. Old Man Song spoke extremely quickly as he rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side. But in the next instant, the girl who was lying in a pool of blood was now sitting on the ground. He rubbed his eyes with one hand. He covered his mouth with the other and yawned. Hearing Old Man Song's voice, the young girl tiredly blinked her eyes and looked at him. Old Man Song, what are you yelling about? I almost fell asleep, and you woke me up. When I crawled up, you were gone. As she spoke, she let out another long yawn. Old Man Song. Chapter 2456. Old Man Song decisively turned and left. Yi Qing Luo's nose twitched as she smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Her eyes lit up as she quickly stood up from the ground. Old Man Song, what did you just say? Divine grade pill? The grades of elixirs that she had heard of were low grade, middle grade, and high grade. There was actually a divine grade? As an alchemist, Yi Qing Luo was naturally very interested in pills. Old Man Song didn't even turn his head. Since you're not dead, don't waste Calder Dragon's pill. Old Man Song, don't. Yi Qing Luo chased up and held on his arm, acting coquettishly. I'll put in the profound phoenix ring for backup. Absolutely won't waste it. Her holding naturally wasn't really holding on to his spiritual body. Old Man Song glanced sideways at her and snorted coldly. You didn't even tell me when you finished. Do you really think I can be frightened just because I'm a spiritual body? Yi Qing Luo obediently apologized and pacified him in various ways. Old Man Song was originally unhappy because he was frightened by Yi Qing Luo. Very quickly, Yi Qing Luo succeeded in pacifying him. Old Man Song looked at the exhausted girl and threw the pill in her hand. All right, get out and rest. I've been accompanying you outside for a few days. My spiritual body is about to collapse from exhaustion. She withdrew her divine sense from the azure dew bracelet. Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes. The feeling of exhaustion instantly swept over her body. Even lifting her arm felt very strenuous. Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes again. She was about to make up for her sleep and rest. But there was a knocking sound outside the door. Sister Luo, are you there? Yi Qing Luo recognized the girl's crisp voice the moment she heard it. It was Miao Yi. She yawned, pressed the space between her eyebrows, and sat up against the headboard. I'm here. Hearing the response, Miao Yi pushed the door open and quickly ran to Yi Qing Luo's bedside. Sister Luo, something happened. Miao Yi's voice was somewhat trembling. Her eyes were also red like she had just cried. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows knitted slightly. Her tiredness also dissipated a bit. What happened? I personally handed the letter you gave me to Grandma Bu. After Grandma Bu read it, she asked me to take her back to the Bu family village. As Miao Yi spoke, she began to sob softly. I thought that Grandma Bu was homesick, so I personally brought her to the Bu family village. But, Granny Bu went to the Bu family village. After meeting with Grandpa Bu, the two of them stayed in the house and talked about something. Then, Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu disappeared. He won't see you. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. They are both ordinary elderly people. How could they possibly disappear for no reason? I don't know. I searched the entire Bu family village, but I couldn't find Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Miao Yi's tears rolled down her cheeks. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as she pondered deeply for a moment. Miao Yi anxiously tugged Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister Luo, could Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have been brought away by the Miao tribe? No. Yi Qing Luo shook her head firmly. Third Elder Miao had already sworn an oath, so he would definitely not dare to violate it. He would absolutely not allow the Miao tribe to kidnap Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Suddenly, Yi Qing Luo thought of something as she immediately lifted the blanket and jumped off the bed. Go to the Miao tribe. I'm afraid. Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have gone to the Miao tribe. Grandma Bu had originally brought her son and daughter-in-law, along with her grandchildren, to Qinghua City. Miao Yi only mentioned that Grandma Bu's grandchildren were beaten to death by Yuan Quan. Then son and daughter-in-law. Why weren't they by Grandma Bu's side? When Grandma Boo returned to the Boo family village, she had a private conversation with Grandpa Boo. Chapter 2457. Meow Tribe? Why? Didn't the Meow people take Grandpa Boo and Grandma Boo away? Meow E sucked in a cold breath. Because Yi Ching Luo said that it wasn't the Meow people who captured the Boo family's two elders. It was the Boo family's two elders who had gone to the Meow tribe. Both of them were ordinary people, and they were already in their 50s. He went to the Meow tribe just like that. How could they leave the Meow tribe alive? Or perhaps, from the very beginning, the Boo family's two elders never planned to leave this place alive? Yi Ching Luo's expression congealed slightly. If I didn't guess wrongly, Grandma Boo's son and daughter-in-law should have been killed by the Meow people. As for how Grandma Boo was able to escape the Meow people's pursuit and bring her grandson and granddaughter to Qinghua City, she must have known the truth behind her son and daughter-in-law's murder. Meow-Yi's face paled. She stood up abruptly and staggered a little because of her hasty movements. What's the matter? Yi Ching Luo dressed herself neatly and squinted her eyes at Meow-Yi. Meow-Yi's face was pale as she shook her head helplessly. No, I'm just worried about Grandpa Boo and Grandma Boo. I'll go to the Meow tribe first. Inform Peach to give Xiao Wu and Mao Mao a map of the Meow tribe. Yi Ching Luo didn't wait for Meow-Yi to continue as she had already walked out of the room. Meow-Yi clenched her fists tightly as a trace of struggle flashed across her eyes. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he quickly rushed out of the room and headed for Peach's room. The most luxurious restaurant in the city was the Peach Blossom Restaurant. At this moment, there was a group of 5 people who were travel-worn. No matter where these 5 people went, they were the most eye-catching existences. 3 men and 2 women. Men all had their own styles. Even if one of them was an unprepossessing man, the aura he exuded was so unique. The women each had their own merits, and they were all charming and charming. Little Fool was trained by Peach, so he was very good at reading people's expressions. As soon as he saw the 5 of them, he stepped forward and smiled widely. "Sir, please come in, please come in." The 5 of them followed the waiter and found a good spot in the lobby. The location was not bad. It was just that it was too eye-catching. The waiter didn't know how to do business. The 5 of them sat in the restaurant. It would more or less attract a lot of guests. Perhaps the 5 of them had traveled through the night and were very tired, so they did not say much. As soon as they sat down, the charming woman said, "Waiter, quickly bring us a few pots of good tea and a table of your restaurant's best dishes." "All right, sir, I'll go right away." The waiter smiled, his eyebrows arched, and he quickly went to the back hall. Soon, other waiters brought up the bowls and chopsticks. At this time, it could be considered the peak period of the restaurant. The restaurant was filled with all sorts of people from the pugilistic world. It was also a channel for news to spread. Not to mention that it was the day when the Nirvana Realms cultivators were rushing over to the Joy City to attend the sect leader's birthday banquet. The entire restaurant was extremely noisy. Just then, he heard someone discussing the gossip of the past few days. Speaking of that Lady Yi, she's a rare beauty that only appears once in 100 years. The person at the next table couldn't help but gasp in admiration. Chapter 2458. If you say that you don't know who that Lady Yi is in Qinghua City, then you'll have come for nothing. When a man saw that many people had gathered around his table, he stood up proudly and placed one of his legs on the stool. His spittle flew everywhere as he spoke. When that Lady Yi first came to Qinghua City, she had a conflict with the little overlord of Qinghua City, who is also the only son of Battle King General, young Prince Yuan Quan. Not only did she humiliate the young prince in front of everyone, she even took the opportunity to poison him. And our young princess didn't manage to gain any advantage from Miss Yi, the young prince of Battle King General's family. That woman is so bold. Is that woman too confident? Or is there something wrong with her brain? Countless listeners were astonished. They came from different continents. How could they not have heard about Battle King General? When they heard that someone dared to hurt the young prince in Qinghua City, Battle King's territory, they could not believe it. You might not believe me, but not long ago, Lady Yi fought with our North Continent's little princess, Lingling, and East Continent's little princess Lingling. When a man saw someone refuting him, he immediately said, "But they fought in Peach Blossom Restaurant." Peach Blossom Restaurant was almost demolished. As he spoke, he pointed at the few newcomers around him. "You've heard of the two little princesses, right? Those two little princesses can't be said to be particularly powerful, but they're still Xian cultivators. However, they were beaten by Miss Yi to the point of spitting blood in an instant. Beat up the princesses of 2 continents in front of everyone. Where did that woman come from? How could she still be alive after beating up the princesses? Such a fierce woman. Could she be extremely ugly?" The man shook his head. "Although her looks, she's not a top beauty, but her temperament is out of this world. Even if a fairy descended from the heavens, she won't be as outstanding as her." More and more people gathered around the table next to them. The 5 people sitting at the table next to them frowned slightly. Coincidentally, the waiter came forward and served the dishes. Seeing the liveliness at the table next to her, she hurriedly smiled and said, "Guests, please forgive us. That guest has great respect for Miss Yi and often tells stories here. If you don't like it, just pretend that he is telling stories and add to the atmosphere." The delicate lady propped her chin up with one hand and glanced at the man who kept bragging about Missy. "The Missy that he's talking about, who exactly is she?" "This, I don't know either, but it is indeed as the storyteller said. She is an extraordinary woman." The waiter smiled. They looked at each other. "Missy? Surnamed Yi?" On the first day he arrived at Qinghua City, he was already arguing with a young prince. He even fought with various princesses. This style, why was it that the more he listened, the more it sounded like their family's Qing Luo? "Jinzi, do you think the person they're talking about, is it Qing Luo?" The delicate lady hugged the ordinary-looking man's arm. The man lowered his head, his eyes filled with gentleness. "From the way you do things, it does seem like it, but Qing Luo's looks have always been outstanding. Qing Luo will change her looks." The girl in pink Lolita attire blinked her empty eyes and said word by word. Chapter 2459. The youngster got up and was about to walk towards the crowd. "Young master Mo," a cold voice sounded. The man in black who was sitting beside the youngster looked at the youngster and said, "Don't cause trouble." "Ah Wu, I am such a gentle and elegant young master. Do I look like someone who will cause trouble?" The youngster in white raised his eyebrows, and the smile on his lips became more and more demonic. The few people rolled their eyes at him. They tacitly looked away and ignored him. These 5 people, weren't they Zhou Mo, Gui Wu, Xiao Jin, Yin Xiao, Yi, and Mo Yuing had come all the way from the West Continent? Zhou Mo thought that there must be something wrong with these people's eyes. They couldn't see his gentleness and elegance. He patted his sleeves and walked over. The table next to him was obviously crowded, but for some reason, when Zhou Mo walked over, the crowded customers automatically made way for him. It was as if they were moved away by an invisible force. At that moment, the restaurant fell into silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Zhou Mo. In their eyes flashed a trace of amazement and astonishment. Zhou Mo walked directly to the storyteller, raised his hand, and gently knocked on the table. "Can you tell me the details of the Missy you mentioned just now?" That person was frightened by Zhou Mo. His face turned pale, and he stared at Zhou Mo in astonishment. Zhou Mo's smile became more gentle and modest. "Don't misunderstand. That Missy is very likely to be our friend." That person moved his lips in fear. The youngster in front of him, who was as demonic as a fox, indeed looked like the same kind of person as Missy. Then he looked at the table of the youngster. Although they all smiled very gently, however, he could still feel the powerful aura that these people exuded. That person was still hesitating whether he should tell them about Miss Yi or not. Zhou Mo had already taken out a bag of silver coins. "We just want to know about the specific things about Miss Yi." The bag of silver coins rattled. From the sound of it, there were at least a few hundred silver coins. That person's eyes lit up slightly. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Very quickly, the man recounted everything that had happened to Miss Yi recently. After receiving the silver pouch, he took out a silver coin and bit into it. The expression on that person's face became excited. "Oh yes, Missy is quite familiar with the boss of this restaurant. Just now I saw the boss and Miss Ye's two companions rushing out. I vaguely heard them saying that they were going to the Meow tribe to save Miss Yi. The Meow tribe? Mo narrowed his eyes. Save Miss Yi? I don't know what exactly happened, but if it's Miss Yi, even if it's the Meow, they can definitely escape unscathed. Before the man could finish speaking, he saw Mo turn around and return to his four companions. The few of them heard the Meow people and the word save. He didn't look tired at all. Yin Xiao Yi threw a bag of money into the waiter's hand. Help us look after this table of good dishes. We'll continue when we come back. With that, the five of them rushed out of the restaurant. They had just arrived at the entrance of the restaurant. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. I know where the Meow Stockade Village is. Chapter 2460. Meow Stockade Village. Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly traversed the roofs, which were filled with exotic styles. Her sharp eyes scanned through everything below. The people in the Meow Stockade Village mainly used Meow Meow's venomous spells and weren't too concerned about the cultivation of profound energy. Because of this, no one detected Yiqing Luo's presence. But even so, Yiqing Luo was still extremely cautious and didn't dare to be careless. Old Man Song told her in her mind, there are various kinds of venomous worms around the Meow Stockade Village. If you accidentally disturb those venomous worms, the venomous worms will give off an alarm, and by then, all the people in the Meow Stockade Village will be alarmed. Yiqing Luo released her perception. Sensing the Meow Stockade Village, that place with people was the noisiest. The surroundings were filled with venomous worms. She wondered if Elder T and Grandma, who had disturbed the surrounding venomous worms when they came to the Meow Stockade Village, and if they were hurt by them. Ordinary people like the two Boo elders. It was highly possible that they would be discovered by the guards the minute they got close to the Meow Stockade Village. If that was the case, at least it could ensure that the two Boo elders would not be hurt by the venomous worms. The Meow people would not kill them before they figured out the reason why the two Boo elders ran over to the Meow Stockade Village. She only hoped that she could make it in time. Third Elder, what do you mean? Those two intruders are from the Boo family village. Why can't we kill them? Suddenly, an enraged voice sounded in his ears. Yiqing Luo was stunned when she heard the address Third Elder. Her figure swiftly moved towards the direction of the voice. Nearing one of the stockade village, she saw two figures standing at the open door. One of them was the Third Elder Meow, whom she had met at the Boo family village. Opposite him was another middle-aged man, wearing the same patterned robe as Third Elder Meow. Apparently, he was one of the Meow elders. Third Elder Meow's face sunk. Fifth Elder, if we kill those two Boo family members, will the traitor we are looking for appear? Since the traitor disappeared in the Boo family village, then the village is definitely related to the traitor. Rather than killing those two old fellows, why not keep them alive to lure the traitor out? Fifth Elder Meow didn't believe it at all. Ever since you came back from the Boo family village, you have been behaving strangely. Did the Boo family village give you some benefits? They're just a bunch of old and weak trash. What benefits can they give me? Third Elder Meow spat. I'm thinking of a way to retrieve the Meow tribe's ancient goo worm. What is it? Fifth Elder Meow furrowed his brows. I went to the Boo family village, killed them, and robbed their things, but the people of the Boo family village refused to let go. That traitor also refused to appear. If the hard way didn't work, then I would use the soft way. Aren't those old fellows kind-hearted? I treat them so well and let them treat me as a hero who saves the world. If I want to know something, why won't they obediently tell me? Third Elder Meow glanced at Fifth Elder Meow disdainfully. Why don't you think of a better way? Fifth Elder Meow's mouth was wide open, and he immediately shut it. All the words were stuck in his throat. You spared the lives of the villagers. Is it really just because of this? Fifth Elder Meow looked at him suspiciously. Third Elder Meow said frankly, what else do you think? Without waiting for Fifth Elder Meow to reply, he impatiently continued. All right, I'll leave the Boo family village's matters to you in the future. I don't care about anything else. Chapter 2461. Don't. Third Elder Meow. Fifth Elder Meow panicked. He immediately caught up with Third Elder Meow and pulled it back. I'm overthinking. Just follow your plan to find the traitor. I won't ask any more questions. Third Elder Meow snorted and shook off his hand, although he still looked angry, but at least he had no intention of leaving. Fifth Elder Meow heaved a sigh of relief. Going to the Boo family village to find the traitor. Whoever accepted it would be unlucky. Who knew where the traitor had gone? Every time the patriarch asked about this matter, he realized that there was no progress in the matter. Third Elder Meow would always be the one to suffer. He must have been kicked in the head by a donkey to be in charge of the Boo family village. Seeing that Third Elder Meow had no intention of letting go of the matter, Fifth Elder Meow was worried that Third Elder Meow would take the opportunity to push the blame onto him. He hurriedly left the village. Third Elder Meow stood where he was and remained silent for a long time, until Fifth Elder Meow's aura completely disappeared. Third Elder Meow placed his hand on his chest and gasped for breath. His feigned seriousness and earnestness collapsed in an instant. He took a deep breath and walked into the village. If this happens a few more times, I won't be able to hold it in. Third Elder Meow closed the door of the village and turned around. When his gaze landed on the red-robed figure that had appeared behind him at some point in time, he was completely stupefied. The girl's face was beautiful, and the corners of her mouth were curled up in an extremely faint smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as if they were embellished with luminous pearls. They were extremely bright. It was a beautiful picture that could make people sink into it. However, this caused an expression of fear to appear on Third Elder Meow's face. He staggered back a few steps. His body hit the door that had just been closed, making a loud sound. This sound brought Third Elder Meow back to his senses. His hands immediately trembled as he quickly fiddled with the door lock, trying to escape. Behind him, the girl smiled faintly. She had no intention of stopping him. Well, go out and call all the people of the Meow tribe here. I will personally tell everyone that you, Third Elder Meow, are now my people. You. Third Elder Meow's hand paused. He quickly turned around and pressed his back against the door. You're talking nonsense. How could this elder possibly be one of your people? If you protect the Boo family village for me, doesn't that mean you're one of my people? Yi-Ching Luo's body slumped against the back of the chair as she squinted her eyes lazily. Earlier, wasn't Third Elder Meow painstakingly fabricating a story to protect Old T and Grandma Boo's lives? Third Elder Meow's face turned pale, and he clenched his fists. You forced me to. He used the most insidious method of the Meow tribe to swear a poisonous oath. If he didn't protect the people of the Boo family village, he would die a more painful and unsightly death than the people of the Boo family. All of this was because of that bitch. The minute Third Elder Meow recalled that he was duped by Yi-Ching Luo, agreeing to her various unreasonable requests, his heart surged with endless anger. Cheap hussy. That day, you actually dared to play tricks on this elder. How dare you appear in front of this elder? This elder is going to kill you. Yi-Ching Luo was still smiling as she remained unmoved. Where Old T and Grandma were locked up, bring me there. Chapter 2462. The smile in Yi-Ching Luo's eyes gradually turned cold. I said, bring me over. Her pink lips moved slightly. Word by word, he spat out each and every word extremely clearly. Third Elder Meow's fury was extinguished by Yi-Ching Luo's cold chi. A chill ran down his spine, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Third Elder Meow spoke. Even his voice was trembling. His calves were shaking. In Third Elder Meow's heart, the fear and intense uneasiness towards Yi-Ching Luo became more and more obvious. He really could not understand. How could this girl have such a powerful aura? Perhaps it was the patriarch who was standing here. They all had to lower their heads before this young lady's powerful aura. Yi Luo, haven't you had enough of toying with me? Third Elder Meow clutched his head as he was on the verge of breaking down. I've already told you everything I know, and I've done everything you asked of me. Now that we've arrived at the Meow Stockade Village, are you still unwilling to let me go? At this moment, Third Elder Meow looked like he had aged more than 10 years. Yi Qing Luo looked at Third Elder Meow, who was playing the pitiful card, as she expressed that her heart wasn't affected at all. Who said I'm playing with you? Are you not playing with me? I almost collapsed in the toilet that day. Third Elder Meow said while gnashing his teeth. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her gaze swept across him. You'll believe whatever I say? What do you mean? Third Elder Meow's face paled. These few days have you been having trouble sleeping at night, sweating profusely, especially at night, sometimes cold, sometimes hot? Yi Qing Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Meow's face turned even paler. You? What do you mean? What I mean is... Yi Qing Luo stood up slowly. Her actions were elegant and dignified. I am not playing with you. Third Elder Meow was so shocked that he sat on the ground. The chill on his back had already been covered by cold sweat. His whole body was trembling. The muscles on his face kept twitching. His mouth twitched so much that he couldn't even speak clearly. You, not fooling around with him? In other words, that day, she had indeed poisoned him. The so-called diarrhea was just to make him lower his guard. F***. He might as well be toying with him. Third Elder Meow's heart was in a mess because of Yi Qing Luo, and he really didn't know if he should believe Yi Qing Luo this time around. However, he cherished his life. Even if he knew that there was a possibility that this was Yi Qing Luo purposely making use of the poisoning incident that day to tease him again. However, it could also be true. He was not willing to bet his life on this possibility. Now, will Third Elder Meow bring me over to Elder Tea? Yi Qing Luo saw Third Elder Meow's expression, hence she asked him smilingly. Third Elder Meow's face twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, yes. Yi Qing Luo nodded in satisfaction. Good boy, after I bring Elder Tea and Grandma Boo out safely, I will give you the antidote. A cold glint flashed across Third Elder Meow's eyes. You won't lie to me? Then do you believe it? Yi Qing Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Meow clenched his fists tightly. Now, he had no choice but to believe it. He could only choose to believe. Change into the Meow female attendant's attire. I will bring you over. Third Elder Meow said as he tensed his body and walked towards the inner hall of the village. Very quickly, he took out a set of clean female attendant attire, new. In order to move more conveniently, Yi Qing Luo didn't put on airs. Chapter 2463. Yi Qing Luo disguised herself as a maid and followed behind Third Elder Meow towards their destination. The Meow village's terrain was extremely complicated, and near each of the more important villages, there would be traps set up. What's more, the surroundings of each place was a nest of goo worms. Yi Qing Luo indicated that she was considered lucky that she didn't get infected after wandering around a Meow village for so long. Turning left and right, as Yi Qing Luo walked, she overlapped the surrounding terrain with a map provided by Peach in her mind. After a while, Third Elder Meow stopped in front of an extremely solemn and strange huge village. That huge village was about the size of courtyard. It was filled with a foreign style. There were 2 strong guards standing at the entrance. Third Elder Meow. Do they confess? Third Elder Meow's voice was calm as he asked coldly. No, the guard replied. The patriarch came but left very quickly. He asked me to pass a message to Third Elder Meow to investigate the matter of the traitor. It's the last 3 days. If we are unable to get the whereabouts of the traitor from the 2 Boo villagers, we will slaughter you and the entire Boo village. The guard's voice was very flat, without any extra emotions. Third Elder Meow's expression stiffened as his brows furrowed into a ball. The patriarch personally gave the order? The guard looked straight forward. Yes, I understand. Third Elder Meow snorted coldly as he threw the pendant on his waist fiercely and strode into the village. Yi Qing Luo immediately followed. She was dressed in a maid's attire, and the guard thought she was Third Elder Meow's maid, so he didn't stop her. The 2 of them stepped into the village. The village was extremely quiet. There was a thick atmosphere of terror. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she lifted her eyes and looked around. The surrounding environment. The village was huge and spacious. but there were only a few luminous pearls which illuminated a few corners. No matter how bright the luminous pearls were, it couldn't overcome the spaciousness of the village. Because of that, the village was very dark. Yiqing Luo could vaguely see the strange and terrifying totem on the two sides of the wall. The reason why it was too dark, Yiqing Luo couldn't see it clearly. She could vaguely see a pair of green, bell-like eyes glaring at her fiercely. Her heart trembled. The profound jade heart in his chest inexplicably surged with a feeling of being burned by raging flames. What was going on ever since he carried the heart-calming bead with him? Her profound jade heart had never experienced this sort of abnormal activity before. Yiqing Luo wanted to suppress this feeling. However, that scorching heat burned even more fiercely, as though it wanted to burn Yiqing Luo entirely into ashes. Oh, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Third Elder Miao, who was in front, sensed something amiss with Yiqing Luo and immediately turned his head back. He saw Yiqing Luo holding onto her chest, her face pale and on the verge of collapsing. "You?" Third Elder Miao's expression froze. "Hey, are you all right?" This was the Hmong Stockade village. The Patriarch's spiritual energy is connected to this place. Don't cause trouble. Yiqing Luo shook her head as her breathing quickened. The fire was still burning in his heart. Third Elder Miao sensed that something wasn't right with Yiqing Luo and walked over in an attempt to support her. When his palm touched Yiqing Luo's shoulder, a scorching pain assaulted the center of his palm. Third Elder Miao was so shocked that he immediately loosened his hand. Raising his hand, his palm was flushed red, as though he had been scalded. Chapter 2464. The scorching heat was still persisting, as though there was magma in her heart, crashing against it nonstop. Her eyes started to blur. Her petite body swayed slightly. Relying on her willpower, she tried her best to raise her eyes. The wall. The totem on the wall, what is it? When she lifted her eyes, Yiqing Luo's eyes were completely fixed on that wall. She could see it clearly. That pair of jade green eyes on the wall sparkled with a treacherous glint. She could even see clearly that pair of jade green eyes winking at her. Following that, she saw the surrounding scene became clearer and clearer. A big bloody mouth, as though it was sticking out a scarlet tongue, as though it was roaring. Yiqing Luo even seemed to hear the roar of a wild beast. That was, what kind of wild beast's roar? Why did it sound extremely familiar? But she couldn't figure out what kind of wild beast roar was it. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a mess. That scorching feeling in her chest slowly surged up to her eyes. The totem on the wall became clearer and clearer. Yi Luo. Suddenly, she heard Third Elder Miao's terrified roar. His hand once again tugged on her wrist. Even though he was being scorched, he still didn't let go. Even though Yiqing Luo's mind was no longer clear, but she could still feel it clearly. Third Elder Miao's fear and anxiety. He pulled her, speedily sprinting towards a direction. The speed was so fast, as though there was some dreadful beast chasing behind. At the instant when she was pulled by Third Elder Miao, that scene in front of Yiqing Luo instantly dissipated. Her body staggered. Perhaps it was because of the scorching heat from the profound jade heart, which made Yiqing Luo's physical strength unable to take it. She was easily pulled by Third Elder Miao to an even darker corner. At the instant when Yiqing Luo was forcefully pulled away, her peripheral vision once again shot towards that wall. Whatever bloody mouth, whatever wild beast's roar, it seemed as though it had never happened. Only those two, his eyes, which were glowing with a faint green light, met her gaze without blinking for a moment. At the corner, Third Elder Miao stopped in his tracks as he released Yiqing Luo's hand and panted heavily. "Yi Luo, what's the matter with you? Do you know that just now you were almost discovered by the Patriarch?" He raised his hand in pain. "Are you possessed by the devil? Why is my body so hot? Even my hands are getting burnt." As he spoke, he spread out his hands. But when he looked at his wrinkled hands, there wasn't a single trace of being burned by the raging fire. Third Elder Meow widened his eyes and looked at his hands in disbelief. Just now, he clearly felt that a layer of his skin was about to be scalded off. How could nothing have happened to him? However, no matter how Third Elder Meow rubbed his palms, that burning sensation made him feel like he was dreaming. Both of his hands were intact, without any scars. Yiqing Luo leaned against the wall, feeling weak all over. She stared fixedly at Third Elder Meow, who was rubbing his palms continuously. Her breathing was slightly ragged. It wasn't just Third Elder Meow's hand that was fine. Her profound jade heart also seemed to have returned to normal. The feeling of being burned by raging flames, as though it had been extinguished in an instant. What on earth was going on? Chapter 2465. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Just now, did you talk to me? It should be the totem on the wall that caused your profound heart jade to react. Old Man Song guessed. Soon after, he said thoughtfully, looks like the Meow Stockade village is still hiding many secrets. Yiqing Luo recalled the scene on the wall earlier. The eyes of the beast, the cry of the beast. Inexplicably, he felt a sense of familiarity. Why did I have such a huge reaction? So much, so that even your consciousness had no way to connect to mine. Yiqing Luo thought about it, and felt that the totem was too strange. Her connection with Old Man Song. It depended on the spiritual energy and consciousness of both parties. Old Man Song mused for a moment and shook his head with some uncertainty. This old man is also not too sure. You only saw that pair of eyes, and this old man also only saw that pair of eyes. Before seeing the complete totem, this old man is also unable to determine just what exactly is the cause of your abnormality. Pausing, Old Man Song's voice deepened a bit. The only thing this old man can be certain of is that totem possesses an extremely formidable power that transcends the balance of the Nirvana realm. For you, it's still too much of stretch. No wonder Old Man Song said that there were many secrets hidden in the Meow Stockade village. She and Old Man Song had not seen the totem completely, so no matter how much they guessed, it was useless. It would be better to directly ask Third Elder Meow, who was in the know. As she thought about this, she retracted her divine sense and looked at the person in front of her. Third Elder Meow, that totem before he could finish. Third Elder Meow's expression suddenly changed. He speedily stretched out his hand, trying to cover Yiqing Luo's mouth. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she moved backwards to evade. Yi Luo, that is the taboo of the Meow tribe. Don't mention it again. Third Elder Meow spoke with a solemn expression. His brows were filled with anxiety and unease. Totem? Taboo? I forgot to remind you just now. Don't look around when you enter the Meow Stockade cave, especially the things on the walls. Don't look at them with your eyes. The third elder of the Meow Stockade cave continued. His voice was filled with urgency. You seem to have lost your soul and wanted to touch that wall. Once you touch that wall, the chief will immediately know that you are in the Meow Stockade village. At that time, not only will you not be able to save the two old men from the Boo family village, but you'll also have to hand yourself over here. Meow Village Cave. Yiqing Luo murmured this name. Why can't I mention that picture? She had just spat out a word when she was stopped by Third Elder Meow's gaze. Third Elder Meow's face was pale. He was almost unable to catch his breath. It was obvious that he had been given quite a fright. That is our Meow tribe's taboo. Not only are you not allowed to see or touch it, you can't even mention it. Third Elder Meow's solemn look made Yiqing Luo unable to continue asking. The taboo of the Meow tribe. It was a taboo that Third Elder Meow was so afraid of, even if she forced Third Elder Meow to answer. He was afraid that Third Elder Meow would not reveal anything. Do you still want to save the two old guys in the Boo family village? Third Elder Meow saw Yiqing Luo not replying, and his face revealed an impatient expression. The longer we drag, the easier it is for the chief to find out. I don't want to be treated as the Meow tribe's traitor. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and kept the thoughts in her mind as she nodded. Let's go. Chapter 2466. This time, Yiqing Luo didn't attempt to use her mental power to explore the totem on the wall. That pair of jade-green eyes. Now that she recalled it, she felt a chill running down her spine. After walking for about a cup of tea's time, in the quiet village, a calm and indifferent voice was heard. "Who are you?" "Third Elder." Third Elder Meow replied. A ray of light struck, instantly lighting up the pitch-black surroundings. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked over. She saw a door in front of her opened. There were 2 guards standing at the door. As compared to the guards she saw outside the Meow village, their abilities were obviously stronger. Third Elder Meow took a step forward. Yiqing Luo immediately followed. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, stepped into that door. With a bam, the door was shut. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened slightly as she glanced at Third Elder Meow's back view with an inexplicable, ominous premonition. But at the next moment, she heard Third Elder Meow's impatient voice. "The 2 old fellows from the Boo village are there." Yiqing Luo's thoughts were interrupted. She looked towards the direction which Third Elder Meow was pointing at. Here, it was a place similar to a prison cell. There were prison cells all around. Each prison cell was separated by iron bars. And at the end of the prison cell, on 2 wooden stakes, hung Elder T and Grandma Boo. They were covered in blood as they hung on the wooden stakes, as though they had fainted. Yiqing Luo's brows creased. She didn't lose her rationality and disregard everything. Instead, she first released her perception to ascertain that there was no one else's presence in this underground prison. Then she quickly walked past Third Elder Meow and dashed towards Elder T and Grandma Boo. The 4 limbs of the Boo family's 2 elders were tied with iron chains. Their faces were devoid of any color. Their hair was messy, and they looked extremely disheveled. Seeing Elder T in front of her, Yiqing Luo recalled a few days ago when they were in the Boo village. Elder T was still so gentle, smiling at her benevolently. But now, it had become like this. She clenched her fists and quickly took out 2 healing and replenishing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring. She approached the wooden stake and carefully fed it to the 2 elders. The medicinal pills, which Yiqing Luo refined naturally, had an extremely fast effect. After a while, the 2 Boo family elders gradually woke up and opened their eyes. Elder T was still in a trance. It took him a while to see the person in front of him clearly. His eyes widened in astonishment, and his voice was hoarse and harsh. "How could you, young lady?" Granny Boo had already woken up by now, and when she saw Yiqing Luo's face, she went into a blank. As soon as they moved, the chains on his body made a clanking sound. They then remembered that they were tied up in the dungeon by the Meow people. "Little girl, what are you doing here?" Elder T's face turned pale. "This is the Meow tribe, little girl. I'll get you out of here." Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand, and her fingertips knocked on the metal chains. "Where else are you injured? Can you still walk?" "Little girl, do you know what you were doing? This is the Meow tribe. How could you come here? The Meow tribe will not let you off." When Elder T heard that, his eyes turned red as he choked with sobs. "What ability do I have to trouble little girl to save me time and time again? Quickly leave before the Meow tribe people discover you. Quickly leave this place." Chapter 2467. Elder T's tears streamed down his face. Grandma Boo also cried out, "Young lady, hurry and leave. This is our own choice. We were too rash. We can't harm you." As she spoke, she choked with sobs. Her body was weak due to the torture she had suffered earlier. That iron chain was hanging Grandma Boo's hands tightly. She was in so much pain that her entire face was wrinkled, but she was afraid that Yiqing Luo would be worried, so she didn't make a sound. "Young lady, you're still young. Don't bury your future here. Don't lose your life because of us 2 old fellows. E is a good lady. She won't blame you." "Grandma Boo, don't talk anymore. Conserve your energy." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, comforting her. She walked to Grandma Boo's side and used one hand to support her, lending strength to Grandma Boo to ease the pain from the iron chain. "Young lady," Elder T choked with sobs as he tried to persuade. "Let me untie the iron chain for you first." Yiqing Luo interrupted Elder T's voice. She had just tested the hardness of the iron chain. It was just an ordinary iron chain. It was rather easy to break these iron chains. Close your eyes. Don't be afraid. Yiqing Luo smiled gently. Her voice exuded a reassuring and convincing power. The two Bu elders wanted to say something, but after meeting Yiqing Luo's resolute gaze, they still chose to close their eyes. Back in the Bu family village, Elder T knew that once this young lady decided on something, no one could change her mind. If they didn't want to be a burden to her, then they could only try their best to cooperate with her and try their best not to be a burden to her. Yiqing Luo took a few steps back. Her eyes gradually turned sharp. Her fingers moved. A fiery red feather fan appeared in her palm. Profound energy was injected into the fan, and at this moment, a bewitching red glow appeared, burning brightly. Kacha! A few crisp sounds were heard as the iron chains were cut off and fell onto the ground. The two Bu elders' bodies immediately sank. Yiqing Luo supported them with each hand, letting them lean against the wooden pillar, sitting down to rest. After rescuing the two Bu elders from the iron chain, Yiqing Luo's gaze turned towards the surroundings, surveying the surroundings. I'll bring you out of the Miao tribe first. We'll talk about the rest after we get out. As soon as she finished speaking, his gaze was fixed on a certain spot. His expression changed drastically. Third Elder Miao, how dare you scheme against me? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as a pair of sharp, charming eyes, like a sharp icicle, pierced directly towards Third Elder Miao, as she spat out a sentence while clenching her teeth. Her reaction could be considered very fast. The moment he sensed that something was wrong, he immediately bent down and hugged the two Bu family's elders. Then, with a single step, he flew towards Third Elder Miao. However, just at the moment when Yiqing Luo leapt up, a loud bang shook the entire Hmong stockade village 3 times. Dong! Then a huge iron cage came crashing down. If Yiqing Luo was alone, escaping from this iron cage was definitely not a problem. But in Yiqing Luo's hands, there were 2 old men who were obviously exhausted. The moment the iron cage came crashing down, Yiqing Luo knew that her discovery was too late. She decisively gave up on the idea of escaping with the Bu family's 2 elders, just at the moment when the iron cage came crashing down on their heads. She had already brought the 2 Bu elders back to the side of the wooden pillar. Chapter 2468. The iron cage that flickered with a cold light trapped the 3 of them inside. Young lady. The 2 Bu family elders were so shocked by the sudden turn of events that they couldn't recover from their shock. They stared blankly at the iron cage and stammered. What is going on? Why is there an iron cage? Grandma Bu's eyes widened in astonishment. She looked at the iron cage. Then she looked at Yiqing Luo's gloomy expression. Tears welled up in her eyes. Young lady, we've let you down. We've caused you to be trapped in the Miao tribe. It's all right. Yiqing Luo turned back to look at the 2 Bu elders, and the expression on her face became gentler. Just treat it as me asking you to rest more. After you've rested enough and recovered your energy, we'll leave. Ha ha! A sudden, ear-piercing laughter was heard from outside the iron cage. Third Elder Miao placed both his hands behind his back, totally different from the yes man in front of Yiqing Luo earlier. Trapped in the Miao stockade cave, and you still want to leave? Ha ha ha! Seeing that you're so ignorant, this elder shall be merciful and tell you. The Miao stockade cave is not a place where you outsiders can come and go as you please. Third Elder Miao walked slowly to the iron cage with a complacent smile on his face. When the 2 Bu elders heard that, their bodies trembled violently as their faces were filled with guilt. Yiqing Luo didn't even raise her head as she half-squatted in front of the 2 Bu elders and took their pulse while sneering. Third Elder Miao, don't be too confident. If I want to leave, can you stop me? Third Elder Miao couldn't help but burst out laughing. Why don't you leave for this elder to see? Ha ha ha. As long as I hand you over to the clan leader, this elder will definitely be able to get rid of the mess in the Bu family village and obtain a respectable status. As though he was thinking of his future, Third Elder Meow's laughter became increasingly carefree and complacent. Yiqing Luo turned a deaf ear to it. There wasn't a single trace of panic on her face. Only between his brows, there was a hint of coldness. After confirming that the Tubu elders had not suffered any serious injuries, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief and fed both of them another elemental energy pill as she comforted them warmly. Grandpa Boo, Grandma Boo, rest here and recover your energy. In a while, I'll bring you out. Young lady, Granny Boo held Yiqing Luo's hand tightly. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Don't worry. After she finished speaking, she slowly stood up and faced Third Elder Meow. In that instant, the expression on her face became extremely domineering. From head to toe, he released an aura that looked down on everything. Third Elder Meow's maniacal laughter was abruptly stopped by Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as she fixed her gaze on him. Her pink lips curled upwards as she spoke in a chilly voice. Third Elder Meow's current fantasy, whether he has the life to fulfill it or not, is still a question. Third Elder Meow's face turned pale, but his expression quickly returned to normal. He coldly snorted in a rather pleased manner. You still want to use the matter of me being poisoned to deceive me? Do you really think this elder is a fool? Let you tease me again and again? Towards Yiqing Luo, Third Elder Meow was filled with disgust and hatred from the bottom of his heart. It was Yiqing Luo who made him lose his face in front of his subordinates. It was Yiqing Luo who teased him time and time again, trampling on his pride. That cheap hussy who was full of lies. He didn't believe that there was any poison in his body, or such nonsense. Chapter 2469. Yiqing Luo laughed lowly. She raised her eyes curved, narrow, and charming. Whether I am deceiving you or not, you know it in your heart. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed the glower flame fan against her pink lips as she continued. Actually, from the start, I really felt that you were rather silly, but now you're not that silly. At least, he knew how to take advantage of her confidence and scheme against her. He had been tricked. Yiqing Luo wasn't particularly angry. She had indeed underestimated Third Elder Meow, believing that Third Elder Meow cherished his life. But he had overlooked it. The third elder of the Meow clan had been fooled by her in the Boo family village. He no longer believed her. Third Elder Meow's face turned slightly pale. He clenched his fists tightly and stared sharply at the young girl in the cage who was smiling calmly. In his heart, there was a faint feeling of unease. Yi Luo was too calm, especially when those eyes, which seemed to be able to see through the soul, looked at him with a faint smile. He felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Every night, the feeling of sweating, sometimes cold, sometimes hot, seemed to attack his heart. Yi Luo had fed him that day in the Boo family village. Was it really poison? No, impossible. The Meow tribe's doctor has already checked on me. There is no poison in my body. This elder is not poisoned. Not knowing if it was to convince himself or to convince Yiqing Luo, Third Elder Meow practically roared out this sentence. That's right. He wasn't poisoned. Dr. Meow did not find any toxins in his body. It must be this bitch who wanted to trick him and make him fall for it. Poochie. An unsuppressible chuckle escaped from Yiqing Luo's mouth. She smiled and said, Then, did Meow, you find any clues about the poison in Miss Meow's body? Third Elder Meow opened his eyes wide. His countenance turned pale as he staggered several steps back. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. Then, during that crazy period of time, was there any doctor who found any clues? It seems like even Miss Meow couldn't detect the poison in Little Prince's body with her goo worm. Third Elder Meow's body suddenly swayed. His legs began to wobble. His breathing also became a little hurried. He staggered backward. He muttered softly, Impossible. Impossible. You're just scaring me. You're definitely playing with me. However, even if he brainwashed himself repeatedly, the expression on Third Elder Meow's face grew more and more frightened and panicked. Yi Luo. Yi Luo. He suddenly cried out Yiqing Luo's name in panic and helplessness as his eyes stared straight at Yi-Ching Luo crazily. "This elder will let you out now. You give this elder the antidote." Yi-Ching Luo tilted her head as she fanned herself with a languid look, "But I don't feel like going out now." Then, she walked over to the Bu family's 2 elders and sat down. "The environment here is not bad. I will stay here for a while." Yi Luo, 3rd Elder Miao's face turned pale. He was flustered and anxious. The Miao Stockade Village's cave is the most taboo place in the Miao tribe. I'll let you out now and send you away from the Miao tribe. Give me the antidote." Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but laugh out. 3rd Elder Miao really cherished his life. But did he really think that after this iron cage was put down, she could still leave easily? The Miao tribe's people were not fools. She already had no chance to leave quietly. Chapter 2470. 3rd Elder, I heard that. You've already caught the person who trespassed in the Miao tribe? A deep voice was heard coming from the entrance of the dungeon. Immediately following that, a middle-aged man walked over. That man's imposing manner was unleashed, carrying a trace of sharpness. When that man walked nearer to 3rd Elder Miao, 3rd Elder Miao's face turned as white as a piece of white paper. His entire body started to tremble violently. He plopped onto the ground as he stammered, "Patriarch, Patriarch." The person who came was the Miao tribe's patriarch, Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was all smiles. 3rd Elder need not be so courteous. 3rd Elder Miao stood up apprehensively. He paid attention to Miao Yixiong's expression as he tried his best to calm his emotions. Looking at the patriarch's expression, he probably hadn't heard what he said about releasing Yi Luo. He couldn't afford to be flustered. Today, the patriarch had already seen Yi Luo locked up in the Miao tribe's dungeon. He had no other choice. No matter if he was poisoned by Yi-Ching Luo, he had to stand on the Miao tribe's side. "Patriarch, this is the person who trespassed in the Miao tribe, trying to save the 2 old fellows in the Bu family village." After he had made up his mind, 3rd Elder Miao decisively pointed at Yi-Ching Luo. Miao Yixiong narrowed his eyes. He placed his hands behind his back as he walked nearer to the iron cage. When his gaze met the young lady's face, his expression suddenly congealed. "Yi Luo?" Yi-Ching Luo lazily raised her eyelids as she squinted at Miao Yixiong, smiling as she spoke. "Miao tribe leader, long time no see." "Not long, not long." These words were said with clenched teeth, as though he was suppressing his anger. 3rd Elder Miao saw that the atmosphere between the 2 of them was not right, and realized that there was a grudge between the patriarch and Yi Luo, and it wasn't a small grudge. 3rd Elder Miao stood on the patriarch's side even more firmly. "Patriarch, the last time I lost in the Bu family village, it was because she blocked and protected the village. This time, she ran over to the Miao tribe to save these 2 people. This person must have a close relationship with the Bu family village, and there's a possibility that traitor's disappearance is related to her." "No, we don't know anything about traitors. This is only the 2nd time we've met this young lady. She was just being kind. She just couldn't bear to see us 2 old people get hurt. Let her go, let her go." Granny Bu struggled to stand up. Her wrinkled face was filled with tears. "I've kowtowed to you. I'll answer whatever you want to ask. Let this little girl go." Then Granny Bu's tottering body propped itself up, wanting to kneel. Yi-Ching Luo raised her hand and stopped her. "He won't dare to do anything to us. You stay here and rest well." "Huh." Miao Yixiong sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. "Young lady, you sure talk big." "Of course." Yi-Ching Luo gently patted Grandma Bu's back, comforting her as she gave a faint smile. "Your daughter's life is now in my hands. If you don't want her daughter to live on, then just go ahead and do it." Grandma Bu's expression changed. "You." Miao Yixiong was so angry that his eyes were filled with rage. "Yi Luo, what did you do to Rongrong? How could he not want Miao Rongrong to live?" Miao Rongrong was his only hope now. She was the only candidate to be the Miao tribe's sacred maiden. But ever since Miao Rongrong escaped from the Battle King's residence, Miao Rongrong's body was getting weaker and weaker, even if it was those antidotes that Miao Rongrong brought back. Chapter 2471. Yi Qing Luo didn't even lift her eyelids. Speaking of eldest young Miss Meow. Meow Patriarch, the bottle of medicinal pills that eldest young Miss Meow snatched from me was something that I spent an entire month to refine, spending a huge amount of money to gather all the medicinal herbs. She paused as her lips curled into a mocking smile. I should settle this score with the Meow Patriarch. You poisoned Rong Rong and still dare to ask me to settle this score for you? Meow Yixiong laughed in anger. Young lady, this is the Meow tribe and you're so arrogant in my territory. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave this place alive? Yi Qing Luo finally raised her head. Her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as she shrugged her shoulders indifferently. It doesn't matter if I can leave the Meow tribe alive, but whether eldest Miss Meow can stay alive. Yi Luo. Meow Yixiong's imposing manner exploded, fierce and sharp, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. His 5 fingers moved. A burst of dense, profound energy burst forth from his palm. Yi Qing Luo felt the ground shaking. Behind her, the Tubu elders' panicked cries could be heard. Yi Qing Luo turned around and saw the wooden stake that the Tubu elders were sitting on suddenly rose up slowly. Sharp arrows flew out from all directions of the iron cage, heading straight for the 2 old men on the wooden stakes. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold. Her feet tapped lightly, and her body leaped up agilely. The glower flame fan in her hand suddenly opened up and slashed out a burst of dense, profound qi. Bam! The whirlwind created by the Xian qi knocked away all the sharp arrows. Yi Qing Luo's other hand immediately pulled the 2 Bu elders down from the wooden stake. Immediately, the 3 of them landed steadily on the ground, looking at the 2 old men who were still in a state of shock. Yi Qing Luo's face revealed a trace of anger. Her eyes were cold as her lips curled into a cold arc. Meow Patriarch, you will pay the price for what you did earlier. Meow Yixiong totally disregarded Yi Qing Luo's words. His gaze was sinister and malicious. Just based on the fact that you're trapped in my iron cage with 2 burdens, you want me to pay the price. Really? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. At the same time, he spat out these 2 words lightly. A gush of horrifying power encircled Yi Qing Luo's surroundings, enveloping that young lady dressed in a long red dress, who was like a raging flame, tightly. The entire dungeon shook violently, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to sway. He could vaguely hear the sound of something falling to the ground. The smile on Meow Yixiong's face gradually froze. Yi Qing Luo let go of the 2 Bu elders and lowered her voice. Stand further away. We'll be able to leave soon. Yi Qing Luo intentionally set up a simple enchantment around the 2 Bu family elders. This was formed from her spiritual power. Naturally, the profound energy she released would not have any effect on the barrier. What do you want to do? Meow Yixiong sensed that something was wrong. This power was so strong that it made him feel somewhat oppressed. Of course, it's to make you pay the price. Yi Qing Luo's red lips were alluring as she spat out one sentence at a time. His voice fell. Yi Qing Luo leaped up. Dense dark force surged rapidly. Suddenly, like an exploding whirlpool, it landed on top of the iron cage. Bam, 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 bam. A series of collisions and the sound of things falling to the ground were heard. That iron cage which had trapped Yi Qing Luo and the other 2 inside. Under Yi Qing Luo's profound qi attack, it collapsed with a loud bang. Meow Yixiong was jolted back a few steps. Chapter 2472. The ground was filled with dust, and the iron bars were sent flying. Yi Qing Luo lightly clapped her hands as her long and narrow eyes rose into a faint but cold arc. Now, Meow Clan leader, how else do you think you can trap me? Meow Yixiong's malicious eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. His hands clenched into fists as his profound qi revolved around his body. Yi Qing Luo's action of shattering the iron cage. It really gave him a huge shock, although he knew in his heart that Yi Qing Luo's ability was very strong. But he had never thought that Yi Qing Luo's ability was actually above his. This young lady, was she really like what she looked like on the surface? Just a 15-year-old young lady? What was her identity? Why did she go against the Miao clan time and time again? Miao Yixiong's gaze turned increasingly cold. In my Miao clan's territory, you think I can't trap you? He laughed coldly a few times. His sinister gaze slowly fell onto the two Bu elders behind Yi Qing Luo. His smile became even colder. The Miao clan is not a place where you can come and go as you wish. Moreover, with those two burdens around, you can forget about leaving the Miao clan. The two Bu elders shivered. Then, bring it on, we can try. See if I have the ability to bring Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu away from the Miao clan. Towards Miao Yixiong's threat, Yi Qing Luo was totally unmoved as she met Miao Yixiong's gaze calmly, as her lips twitched in ridicule. Miao Yixiong's gaze turned colder. You won't give up until all hope is gone. I like to see how arrogant you can be. His words had just ended when Miao Yixiong took a few steps back. Then he called out loudly, Lord you, I'll have to trouble you. Lord you? Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed. In her mind, a figure suddenly flashed past. The next moment, she saw a tall man appearing in the dungeon. That man overlapped with the figure which flashed past Yi Qing Luo's mind. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly contracted as shock flashed past her eyes. Yu Ji. The man in front of her wasn't he. Lanling Nuo's personal guard? She had once crossed hands with him at the Peach Blossom restaurant, and she was still not his match. That man called Yu Ji? Why would he appear in the Miao tribe? Ha ha! You didn't expect this, did you? Miao Yixiong looked at Yi Qing Luo's astonished expression and burst into laughter. Young lady, do you really think that your ability is so strong that no one in the world can match you? Arrogance and confidence depend on the situation and the person. Miao Yixiong's laughter was filled with smugness and coldness. He felt a sense of exhilaration. He was the leader of the Miao tribe, but in the hands of a 15-year-old girl, he had repeatedly suffered losses. Now, he could finally suppress this little girl's arrogance. He would find Yu Ji, invite Yu Ji to the Miao tribe. It was to deal with Yi Qing Luo. He learned from Miao Rongrong. The bodyguard brought by the East Wave County Lord, Lanling Nuo, was able to defeat Yi Luo easily. Therefore, he borrowed Yu Ji from Lanling Nuo. In the process of borrowing people from Lanling Nuo, Miao Yixiong also noticed some clues. Although on the surface, Yu Ji's identity was said to be Lanling Nuo's personal guard. But in fact, every time Lanling Nuo spoke, she had a look at Yu Ji's expression, especially when it concerned Yu Ji. Lanling Nuo appeared to be even more careful. Chapter 2473. Of course, who exactly was Yu Ji? Miao Yixiong did not mind. He only cared about whether Yu Ji could get the antidote out of Yi Luo. Nothing else mattered to him. However, there was one thing that puzzled Miao Yixiong. When he sincerely invited Yu Ji to come to the Miao tribe to help him solve his biggest problem, Yu Ji didn't even finish his words before directly rejecting him. But after that, when he and Lanling Nuo talked and mentioned the name Yi Luo, Yu Ji actually changed his attitude and agreed to it immediately. Then, she followed him to the Miao tribe. Miao Yixiong had originally planned to bring Yu Ji to Yi Luo. If Yi Luo didn't listen to her, then let Yu Ji force Yi Luo to hand over the antidote. Who would have thought that Yi Luo would come to the Miao tribe alone for the sake of the two elders of the Bu family village? Coincidentally, Yu Ji was in the Miao tribe. This time, it could be said that Yi Luo had fallen into the tiger's den. Miao Yixiong recalled the scene of Yi Luo being tortured by Yu Ji, the scene of Yi Luo handing over the antidote and begging for mercy. The smile on Miao Yixiong's face grew even more smug. Little girl, you're not Lord Nethery's match. You'd better surrender obediently. Standing behind Yu Ji, Miao Yixiong was full of confidence. Actually, I'm not an unreasonable person. As long as you give me the antidote obediently and help Rongrong vent her anger, I'll naturally let you leave the Miao tribe. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. Such a person, with such a face, was actually the patriarch of the Miaogu clan? Is there no one left in the Miao tribe? Letting such a brainless person become the clan leader? Aren't you afraid that the 100 years of prestige of the Meow Goo clan will be destroyed? He was a dignified clan leader, a 45 to 54-year-old middle-aged man. He hid behind a young man. Furthermore, he was acting so arrogantly, using the young man as a stepping stone to criticize others. Why did Yiqing Luo feel that this clan leader was so childish that it made one laugh? Seeing that Yiqing Luo wasn't like what he had imagined, begging bitterly, instead she looked at him and smiled. Miao Yixiong's expression turned cold, and his eyes instantly became sharp. Just as Miao Yixiong was about to continue speaking, the young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a dreamy light. A sweet voice spilled out from the girl's pink lips. Chief's suggestion is not bad. Miao Yixiong's words were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. He felt an indescribable strange feeling. Yi Luo's smile, his tone. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't sound like he was agreeing with him. However, he couldn't tell what was strange about it. However, when he saw Yu Ji standing in front of him with a cold aura around him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Miao Yixiong reckoned that Yi Luo would not have a chance to make a comeback. He sneered. You should have been this tactful from the start. Give me the antidote. Yiqing Luo touched her chin. Even if I give it to you, do you really dare to let eldest Miss Miao take it? You. Miao Yixiong clenched his fists. Indeed, even if Yiqing Luo really gave him the antidote, he did not dare to rashly give Rong Rong the antidote. If Yiqing Luo gave him a fake antidote, wouldn't Rong Rong also die? Miao Yixiong didn't know about the grudge between Yu Ji and Yi Luo. He only knew that if he took the antidote and left, and the antidote was fake, by then Yi Luo would be killed by Yu Ji. His precious daughter would be buried along with him. No, absolutely not. Rong Rong was the Miao tribe's future sacred maiden. This was the only chance for him to stabilize his position as the Miao tribe's clan leader. Chapter 2474. The more Miao Yixiong thought, the more flustered he became. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she saw through Miao Yixiong's thoughts. She scoffed and looked away in disdain. Yu Ji's expression was indifferent. He had been watching their battle in silence, and there was no trace of anxiety on his face. When Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto him, only then would there be a hint of arrogance between his brows, as though she looked down on Yiqing Luo from the start. To Yu Ji, the young girl in front of him was indeed not worthy of his attention. Secluded solitude. Yiqing Luo calmly called out Yu Ji's name. You're here is because of me? Yu Ji frowned. Yes. Who's her master? Hearing Yu Ji's reply, Yiqing Luo was almost certain that this Yu Ji obviously knew her real identity under her disguise. Yu Ji would become Lanling Nua's guard and come to the Northern Wave continent. It was probably because of her. These people with the surname Serenity, which plane of power did they belong to outside the Nirvana realm? Also behind them, that venerable one. Who exactly was he? Why did he target her so many times? When you die, Yama will naturally tell you. Yu Ji sneered. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. I know what I'm doing even if you don't answer. Yu Ji's eyes flickered. Everyone says that you are eloquent and know how to use pretense to win people's hearts. It seems that it is indeed so. Is Yuan talking about Yinu or Yinu? Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him as her lips curled into a sneer. To be able to conquer people's hearts, it means that you have ulterior motives and you have something that I can use against you. Her smile gradually curved her eyes, but her expression was still extremely cold. Yu Ji glanced at Miao Yixiong, who was rooted to the ground as if he had been petrified. There was obvious disgust in his eyes. Following that, he looked towards Yiqing Luo and spoke out impatiently. Give him the antidote. You want the antidote? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and put on a smiling look. Yu Ji frowned. What? Do you want me to use force? But even if you use force, you won't be able to get the things in my profound phoenix ring. Yiqing Luo's curved eyebrows blinked as she smiled in an infuriating manner. The profound phoenix ring was different from an ordinary interspatial ring. If it turned into an ordinary spatial ring, he wanted to take over the things inside the spatial ring. As long as he defeated his opponent and dug out his opponent's profound heart jade, he could use the power of the profound heart jade to open the spatial ring. However, the Netherworld Phoenix ring could only be opened by its owner. Yuji's eyes were cold and gloomy as it swept past the red jade ring on Yiqing Luo's fingertip. He suddenly flipped his palm, and a thick and strange black power rolled in his palm. Immediately following that, he had already struck towards Yiqing Luo's face at lightning speed. Lady Nethery. When Miao Yixiong saw this, he cried out in shock, The antidote, the antidote! Scram! Yuji suddenly waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong was sent flying by the shockwave and tumbled to the ground. She saw that powerful and majestic momentum enveloping Yiqing Luo from all directions. Miao Yixiong's pupils were filled with that black, profound energy as it exploded and collapsed in his eyes. The ground was shaking incessantly. It was as if this dungeon could collapse at any time. Under such circumstances, how could Yiqing Luo? How could she still be alive? Chapter 2475. Yuji's attention was all on Yiqing Luo's direction. He did not notice Miao Yixiong's crazy behavior. In a moment of carelessness, his arm was scratched by Miao Yixiong. Yuji's face darkened as he shook off Miao Yixiong. However, Miao Yixiong's emotions were no longer stable. He held on to Yuji tightly. Sharp nails pierced Yuji's skin. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Yuji fiercely. You promised to get the antidote for me. How dare you go back on your word? How dare you violate our cooperation? Yi Luo was dead. No one could cure the poison in Miao Rongrong's body. There was only 1.5 months left until the Saintess election. Miao Rongrong could not become the Saintess. The other clans would then take advantage of the situation to rise. His position as patriarch, I can't sit still. There was nothing left. Miao Yixiong was filled with hatred towards Yuji. If it wasn't for Yuji's arrogance, he also wouldn't take advantage of Yuji's presence to mock Yi Luo repeatedly. Didn't Yi Luo want money? If it could be solved with money, then it wouldn't be a problem at all. At the very least, Rongrong could become the Saintess. At the very least, he could keep his position as the patriarch. At that time, how much money would he have? The more Miao Yixiong thought about it, the more he wanted to strangle Yuji. But Miao Yixiong had never thought about it. The person who invited Yuji over from Lanling Nuo was himself. Even though he knew that Yuji's target was Yiqing Luo, he still chose to believe in her without any hesitation, which was himself. Relying on the momentum of secluded silence who had once defeated Yiqing Luo, the one who was arrogant was still himself. What right did he have to blame others? However, Miao Yixiong would probably never understand. Yuji was annoyed by Miao Yixiong's craziness. He furrowed his brows and waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong's body was sent flying by the strong wind released by Yuji. With an indifferent expression, Yuji turned around and walked towards the exit of the dungeon. Miao Yixiong fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he grinned and laughed loudly. Yuji, why don't you leave? I've already planted the heart-devouring parasite in your body. Ha ha! As long as you leave a distance of 6 feet from me, the heart-devouring parasite in your body will eat you bit by bit, until all that's left of you is a skeleton. Yuji's figure paused, and his face was covered with a thin layer of coldness. How dare you? Miao Yixiong said fearlessly, I just want Rongrong's antidote. Once I get it, I'll cure you. Otherwise, all of you will be buried with the Miao tribe. In any case, he would lose the position of the Miao tribe leader. It was as if he had lost everything. Yuji lowered his head and looked at the wound on his arm that was bleeding black blood. It seemed that Miao Yixiong had used the opportunity of going berserk to plant a goo in his body. Damn it, he was too careless. The cultivation of goo and xian-qi were completely different. Yuji did not dare to rashly use xian energy to force the goo worm out. Miao Yixiong, I can help you get the antidote, but I won't let you go. Yuji glanced at Miao Yixiong coldly. He did not like the feeling of being threatened. Once the goo was cured, he would kill Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was not a fool. He could clearly see the killing intent in Yuji's eyes. But Miao Yixiong could only continue to pretend that he did not know. When he got the antidote, it would be up to him to cure Yuji's goo. If he could control Yuji in his hands and make Yuji work for him. Chapter 2476. Yuji suppressed his anger at being tricked. He took quick steps towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The rubble around the dungeon was about to collapse. In the air waves were still swirling violently. Smoke and dust covered everything in front of him, making it blurry. He could vaguely see that there seemed to be 3 people lying on the ground. He didn't think about anything else and directly walked in the direction of the figure. In Yuji's knowledge, he was the strongest person in the Nirvana realm. Even if Yi Qing Luo wanted to play any tricks, none of them had any effect on him. Moreover, he had absolute confidence in himself. That strike just now, even if Yi Qing Luo wasn't dead. He only had one last breath left. Yuji walked closer. The figure on the ground was dressed in red. She was lying on the ground with her face facing the ground. Her messy black hair covered half of her face. Apparently, it was no doubt Yi Qing Luo. Secluded silence half squatted down, his sword-like eyebrows furrowing slightly. On Yi Qing Luo's body, there was a lady's delicate fragrance. It smelled much better than the artificial flowery fragrance on Dark Girl's body. Hey, Yuji reached out and gently pushed the figure lying on the ground. But the feeling of his palm touching her was not that of a young girl's soft body. Instead, it felt extremely solid. Yuji's eyes slightly widened as he suddenly realized something. He stood up abruptly and quickly tried to retreat. But just as he stood up, his vision was filled with dizziness. His body swayed, and he fell heavily to the ground. Secluded solitude. Miao Yixiong was confused when he saw Yuji suddenly fall to the ground. He propped up his body that was injured by Yuji and walked over shakily. Don't come over. Yuji gritted his teeth and growled. His voice was hoarse and devoid of strength. Miao Yixiong's face stiffened, and he stopped in his tracks. From this angle, he just happened to be able to see the young girl in red lying on the ground in front of Yuji, and she seemed to be dead and didn't move at all. Yi Luo's corpse? However, if it was Yi Luo's corpse, how did Yuji suddenly become like this? Yuji was an expert who could easily defeat Yi Luo. Miao Yixiong was puzzled and looked again. Only then did he realize that the person wrapped in the red clothes was not a young girl, but a piece of steel. He then looked at the 2 faintly discernible figures not far behind him. There was no need to guess. It was definitely the broken steel of the iron cage. This realization caused Miao Yixiong's eyes to gradually light up. This meant that Yi Luo was not dead. Since Yi Luo was still alive, Rongrong's poison could be neutralized. Yi Qing Luo led the Bu family's 2 elders as they carefully sneaked around the dimly lit Miao Stockade Village. Fortunately, the Miao Stockade Village cave was a forbidden area for the Miao tribe. Apart from the entrance and certain places within the Miao Stockade Village's cave that were guarded by guards, other than the entrance and certain places within the Miao Stockade Village's cave, there were no other patrolling guards. The 3 of them did not run into anyone along the way. But what gave Yi Qing Luo a headache was Peach did not have a map of the Hmong Stockade Village. After all, it was the forbidden land of the Miao tribe. No matter how powerful Peach was, she couldn't get the map of the forbidden area. Previously, when she followed 3rd Elder Miao into the Miao Stockade Village cave, the totem on the wall had a huge impact on her. As a result, she had no way of memorizing the route. She could only follow the feeling in her memory and led the Bu family's 2 elders away. Young lady. Chapter 2477. Elder T was panting heavily as his face turned pale. That's right. Young lady, leave on your own. You will definitely be able to leave the Miao tribe. Let's leave together. Yi Qing Luo interrupted their persuasion without hesitation. Don't you believe in my ability? I know you're very powerful, but no matter how powerful you are alone, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Elder T's face was filled with sweat from nervousness and running. His moist eyes were filled with emotion. Little girl, it's enough that you've done so much for us 2 old fellows who don't even know each other. We know that you have a kind heart, but we shouldn't have harmed you just to survive. From the moment you chose to believe me in the Bu family village, we are no longer strangers." Yi Qing Luo lowered her voice and said gently, "In the Bu family village, you believed me once. Believe me again today. I will definitely bring you away. E is still waiting for you." E. Grandma Bu's voice choked as she called out this name. Tears rolled down from her eyes. "We are ordinary people. Following you will only implicate you." Elder T hugged his old wife tightly. "Me and this old wife have lived for more than half a year. Even if we die here, it doesn't matter. Before I die, I'm already satisfied that I can wait for this old wife. I won't leave you alone. If you don't want to implicate me, then listen to me." Yi Qing Luo held on to each of them and used her own strength to support the two old men. Go. If it was somewhere else, Yi Qing Luo would definitely let Shiju out and carry the two old men away. But in the Miao village cave, it was strange and eerie. That pair of jade eyes, the big bloody mouth, the roar of a wild beast. All of these were deeply imprinted in Yi Qing Luo's mind. She couldn't summon teas and was worried that Shiju would be affected by that pair of jade eyes. Especially, summoning Shiju would expose their whereabouts. Yi Qing Luo could only use her own strength to support the two old men as they left. Not even a few steps away, Yi Qing Luo's ears twitched. Following that, her eyes congealed slightly. Someone was approaching. Did Yuji discover that she had made use of steel to create the illusion of their corpses, then used the blink movement secret art to escape the dungeon? She purposely poisoned her robe. Once Yuji got close, the fragrance from the robe would seep into his skin. Yuji will definitely be poisoned. It was impossible for him to catch up to them so quickly. However, the aura behind him was getting closer and closer. Yi Qing Luo didn't have any other choice as her gaze swiftly surveyed the surroundings and directly headed towards the nearest corner in a flash. She brought the two elders of the Bu family and hid in a dark corner. The sound of a group of orderly footsteps could be heard. Yi Qing Luo sneaked a glance from the corner of her eyes. Sure enough, it was someone dressed as a Miao guard. It seemed that her escape with the Bu family's two elders had been discovered. Yuji didn't chase after them himself. This meant that he was indeed poisoned. These people must have been sent by Miao Yixiong to find Miao Rongrong's antidote. If Miao Yixiong was searching for her, she still had the confidence to win. He was sure that Yuji was poisoned. He couldn't do anything to her for the time being. Yi Qing Luo's heart relaxed a little. Kacha! Suddenly, there was a pulling force behind her. Granny Bu softly exclaimed, "Old man." Chapter 2478. Behind Yi Qing Luo was originally a wall. Even if he fell, he would only fall to the ground. But Yi Qing Luo only felt that her body was empty. Then, his body began to fall rapidly. Yi Qing Luo's reaction was swift as she grabbed Grandma Bu's hand tightly. Granny Bu held Elder T's hand tightly. The three of them descended at an extremely fast speed. Yi Qing Luo was adjusting her breathing and releasing her profound energy while sensing the surrounding atmosphere, making preparations to descend any time. The more he fell, the more Yi Qing Luo thought about it, the more astonished she became. This hole was at least 1,000 meters wide. How could there be such a deep cave under the Hmong stockade village? They continued to fall for a while. Yi Qing Luo was keenly aware of the changes in the airflow. She immediately released her profound energy to slow down the speed of their descent. Then, he summoned Shiju. Shiju's massive body caught the three of them firmly. Very soon, Shiju landed on the ground. It was pitch black all around. The two elders of the Bu family simply couldn't see what was underneath. They were still in a state of shock, their bodies trembling as they constantly groped for the things beneath them. He only felt a ball of soft fur. Everything's fine now. Yi Qing Luo gently held the two elderly's hands and comforted them softly. The darkness did not hinder her at all. Yi Qing Luo could see her surroundings clearly. This was an oval-shaped cave. There was nothing inside, and it was completely empty. She jumped down from Shiju's body and took out a luminous pearl. The cave was not spacious. A luminous pearl was enough to illuminate the surroundings. When a light returned to their eyes, when the Tubu family elders saw the thing they were sitting on, it was a huge black leopard, and they almost fainted from fright. Luckily, Elder T's reaction was fast. Seeing Shi Ju's huge head rubbing against Yi Qing Luo's arm bit by bit, he heaved a sigh of relief and pulled the old woman into his arms to pacify her. Old woman is all right. This is a pet raised by a young lady. It's all right, it's all right. The relationship between an old couple was as beautiful as their first love. Just rest on Shi Ju's back for a while. She's a battle-type war pet and can protect you. Don't be afraid. Yi Qing Luo patted Shi Ju's head gently and immediately walked away. Shi Ju took small steps as it followed behind Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the surroundings. There were no traces of any mechanism in the surroundings. Could it be that this place was really just a cave? Were they going to die in this cave? Yi Qing Luo calculated in her mind the distance from the top to here. The idea of using profound energy or relying on Shi Ju to fly up. It was obviously impossible. They would definitely fall midway due to exhaustion. Young lady, are you looking for an exit? Elder T was carried on Shi Ju's back as he followed Yi Qing Luo for a few rounds and asked hesitantly, Yi Qing Luo nodded. Look at the ground there. Elder T pointed to the place where they had just fallen. I remember that I saw something there, but it was very blurry. I couldn't see it clearly, the ground. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She only cared about looking for traces on the surrounding walls. But he forgot to look at the ground. Following the direction that Elder T pointed, Yi Qing Luo quickly walked over. As expected, when they fell, the place where they were blocked by Shi Ju's enormous body, there was a very complicated but very obvious mark. However, perhaps too much time had passed. The ground was very dirty. It was impossible to clearly see what these marks were. Yi Qing Luo squatted down and touched it with her hand. Chapter 2479. There was indeed something strange about the ground. I'll hold this pearl for you. Elder T saw Yi Qing Luo's solemn expression and wanted to do something for her. Yi Qing Luo didn't refuse and placed the luminous pearl in Elder T's hand. Elder T held the luminous pearl and stood by Yi Qing Luo's side, trying his best to make the luminous pearl's light so that Yi Qing Luo could see the ground more clearly. With one hand free, Yi Qing Luo began to use both hands to feel the concave feeling of the ground. Her fingertips brushed past, and her mind followed this outline, slowly forming a picture in her mind. This concave outline was very big. It occupied at least 1/3 of the cave's terrain. Such a big outline. She had just run several laps in this cave and actually didn't find this outline. Yi Qing Luo secretly ridiculed herself in her heart. When did she become so careless? After describing it bit by bit, the outline that her palm touched gradually formed in her mind. It was an extremely huge beast. Yi Qing Luo hadn't been able to figure out the specific shape. But Yi Qing Luo could be sure that this was a beast whose size was at least bigger than Shi Ju, Qi Qi, or Qi Yin. But she couldn't be sure. Was it the carvings on the ground that carved this beast into such a huge one? Perhaps to figure out the overall shape of this beast. Then she could leave this cave. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up slightly. Her hands that were exploring also sped up and began to explore the interior of the beast. This was the head, eyes, nose, mouth. Yi Qing Luo touched down bit by bit, while forming the shape of the beast's head in her mind. Her fingers suddenly touched a sharp place. A sharp pain came. She trembled slightly and quickly retracted her hand. A hole was cut on her fingertip. Fresh blood gushed out. She looked down and looked at the place where her hand was cut. It was the beast's totem's teeth. The sharp teeth were still stained with her blood. That drop of bright red blood made this carved beast seem to add a bit of vitality. This thought made Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly tightened. In a trance, she once again saw that pair of green eyes. The bloody mouth that was stained with blood let out a low roar. The eyes of the totem imprinted on the ground flickered with a faint green color. Little girl, little girl. Suddenly, He heard Elder T's urgent call. Then, his body shook violently. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes with heavy eyelids. She then met Elder T's worried eyes. "Little girl, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Yiqing Luo's breathing gradually calmed down. His eyes gradually regained their clarity. What happened to me?" Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she recalled that pair of jade-green eyes which he had faintly seen earlier, and her heart constricted tightly. "You just—" Elder T hesitated, as if he was choosing his words carefully. "You looked like you were possessed. You stared at the ground and looked like you were in a trance. You didn't seem to hear me when I talked to you. It was the same thing again." Earlier, when he had followed Third Elder Miao to the dungeon, he had encountered such a situation. When Yiqing Luo saw that pair of jade-green eyes on the surrounding walls, it had happened before. Now it was that pair of green eyes again. It was a bloody mouth. It was a wild beast's roar. What on earth was going on? Chapter 2480. Why did the Miao tribe treat the cave as a forbidden place? Especially the totem on the wall. She couldn't even mention it. Third Elder Miao's fear towards the cave. Yiqing Luo could feel it clearly. So, this totem, this beast, what did it represent to the Miao tribe? What secret was it hiding? If she could figure this out, not only could she leave this godforsaken place, moreover, she could coerce the Miao tribe to follow her to the East Continent to help Long Yunzhan suppress the poison. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, suppressing the messy thoughts in her mind. She smiled at Elder T and shook her head. "I'm fine, just a little tired from staring at this totem. So, I took a rest. I have some clues now." After confirming that Yiqing Luo was fine, Elder T was relieved. Yiqing Luo placed all her attention on the totem on the ground. Her palm followed the internal contour of the beast, confirming the body structure of the beast bit by bit. Perhaps she was highly focused. She didn't see it. The drop of blood on the totem's tooth was disappearing bit by bit. At the same time, the totem's protruding eyes. Bit by bit, it shone with a faint jade luster. Under the dazzling, luminous pearl. Extremely weak. "Yi Luo, how dare you trespass the Miao tribe's forbidden area?" Suddenly, a deep and resounding roar resounded from within the cave. The young lady who was groping the totem on the ground frowned slightly when she heard the voice. "It's coming. It's coming." Elder T's hand, which was holding the luminous pearl, trembled. Yiqing Luo raised her head and saw that there wasn't any mechanism at all. On the wall of the deep and long underground cave, a huge worm-shaped hole which was about the size of an adult man's body was reflected in her eyes. It was said to be a worm-shaped hole. It was indeed a giant worm. Its body was a giant hole, but the antennae on its head and the thin black legs were still swaying randomly. A figure walked out from the body of the giant worm. It was the Miao tribe leader, Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong's gaze fell on Yiqing Luo. When he saw that Yiqing Luo was still alive, his eyes were burning with passion. "Yi Luo, it's really you." This forbidden land of the Miao tribe was a taboo that the Miao tribe had guarded for hundreds of years. Once someone approached the forbidden area, they would be killed. Miao Yixiong could use the goo worms left there to sense the aura changes in the forbidden area. Yi Luo was the only one who trespassed into the Miao tribe. Therefore, when it sensed that there was a human aura in the forbidden land, it immediately went into hiding. Miao Yixiong did not hesitate and directly used the Miao tribe's most taxing and most harmful teleportation goo worm to teleport to the forbidden area. As expected, it was Yi Luo. She was alive. Still alive. The expression on Miao Yixiong's face was gradually tainted with madness and joy. "Yi Luo, give me the antidote. Give me the antidote." Yiqing Luo picked her ears as her face was filled with impatience. She was about to crack the secret of the totem, but he was interrupted by Miao Yixiong. No matter who it was at this moment, they would be so angry that they wanted to slap this person to death. However, Miao Yixiong only had the antidote in his heart. "Didn't you want the coins? I'll give it to you. However much you want, I'll give it to you, as long as you give me the antidote. I will absolutely not interfere in the matter between you and Yu Ji," Miao Yixiong said anxiously, The eagerness in his eyes was exceptionally obvious. Asterisk. Chapter 2481. Yi Qing Luo. Was there something wrong with him? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased as she looked at him impatiently. Miao Clan leader, how big a face do you have? After finding someone to kill me, you still tried in vain to buy the antidote for me. As she spoke, the disdain and mockery in her eyes deepened. If it was before, I would have been quite willing to make this deal with you. However, I'm not in a good mood right now, so there's no room for discussion. You! Miao Yixiong trembled with anger. But when he thought of the poison in Miao Rongrong's body, he could only suppress his anger. After the earlier scene where Yi Qing Luo almost died in Yu Ji's hands, Miao Yixiong was now a little paranoid. He absolutely could not let Yi Qing Luo die. He absolutely had to make Yi Qing Luo hand over the antidote. Yi Luo, Yu Ji has already been poisoned. I can hand him over to you, and you can deal with him as you wish. Miao Yixiong suddenly recalled the grudge between Yu Ji and Yi Qing Luo. Do you think you can control him? Yi Qing Luo looked at Miao Yixiong in amusement, unable to imagine how this Miao tribe's leader could be so naive. Miao Yixiong knew how strong Yu Ji was. That was why he specially invited Yu Ji to deal with her. Now that he felt that Yu Ji was poisoned, he wanted to decide whether Yu Ji would live or die. Miao Yixiong's eyes turned cold. He clenched his fists and said, "He's been poisoned by my heart-devouring parasite. As long as he's 10 feet away from me, he'll be devoured from the inside out." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. This Miao Yixiong still had some brains at the crucial moment. He knew how to use goo poison to threaten secluded silence. Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. "Tinjiang," she chuckled. "This cave seems to be more than 10 feet away from the surface." Miao Yixiong's face turned pale. That is to say, Yu Ji's internal organs have already been devoured by the heart-devouring worm. Coupled with the corrosion of the poison, TSK. Yi Qing Luo continued as she shook her head. "He's already dead. How are you going to hand him over to me?" Miao Yixiong's face alternated between green and white. His body stiffened and trembled slightly. The veins on his forehead bulged one by one. It was obvious that he was furious. Yi Qing Luo leisurely stood up as her hand gently caressed Shi Ju's head. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly curved. He had a leisurely look on his face. It was as if the person trapped in the Miao tribe and unable to leave was not her at all. Miao Yixiong restrained his emotions. His chest heaved up and down. For the future, he needed Yi Luo's help. He had only been humiliated by Yi Luo. Once he got his hands on the antidote, he could torture Yi Luo however he wanted. Just as he was thinking of softening his tone and discussing the conditions with Yi Qing Luo, Miao Yixiong's eyes widened unconsciously. He froze on the spot. He stared foolishly at Yi Qing Luo's back without blinking. His face was filled with astonishment and disbelief. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she carefully turned her head and looked behind her. A wave of jade-green light covered the sky and covered the earth. In an instant, it covered her eyes. She felt a stinging pain in her eyes, and her body swayed for a moment. She couldn't help but close her eyes and raise her hand to block the intense green brilliance from hurting her eyes. Yi Qing Luo didn't see. The place where she was standing was right under her feet in the center of the totem. Rays of jade-green light followed the outline of the totem as it continued to extend. Chapter 2482. This scene was clearly reflected in Miao Yixiong's eyes. He was frightened. He staggered backwards, not daring to touch that little bit of jade-green light. Seal. The seal has been unlocked. The seal that had been sealed for 700 years has been unlocked. His voice was hoarse and filled with fear. Yi Qing Luo was shrouded in the jade-green light, but she didn't feel anything special. Only her eyes were pierced by the light and could only open a slit. One of her eyes was still jade-green. She couldn't see anything else. However, since Miao Yixiong was not far away, she could still hear the words he shouted clearly. Seal? What did Miao Yixiong mean by seal? Was this piece of jade-green light the so-called seal? What was sealed in this cave? Gradually, the surrounding light finally dissipated. Her vision was soothed, and Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes. When she saw the scene below her feet, even she was stunned. Only to see the totem outline under her feet was flashing, emitting jade green light. The light wasn't strong. She hadn't had time to take a closer look at the totem carved on the ground. What kind of beast was it? Suddenly, there was a turbulence under her feet. Yiqing Luo's body was unstable as she swayed slightly. The totem under her feet actually tore open a crack from the center. The crack gradually widened. Yiqing Luo immediately leaped up. By the time she stood in a safe place, the crack on the ground had already split open by more than half. Under the crack, there was a piece of jade green light, and nothing could be seen clearly. The crack was about half the size of the totem. The entire cave's turbulence stopped. The cave fell into a strange silence. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she stared at the crack on the ground, trying to see clearly what was under the crack. But other than a piece of jade green, there was still a piece of jade green. Yi Luo, stop! You stop! Suddenly, Miao Yixiong's anxious roar came from behind. That voice had a trace of panic. Yi Luo, this seal must not be unlocked. Once it is unlocked, the entire Nirvana realm will be affected. Yiqing Luo was about to ask what kind of seal it was when she heard that. Two cries of suppressed fear could be heard. Then came Miao Yixiong's furious roar. These two old farts are now in my hands. If you don't want them to die, stop. The two elders of the Bu family. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted. Wasn't Shijue protecting the two elders of the Bu family? With Miao Yixiong's ability, it was impossible for him to take the two Bu elders away from Shiju. Yiqing Luo immediately turned around and looked towards Miao Yixiong's direction. He saw Miao Yixiong grabbing a man's neck with one hand, his expression sinister. Shiju, on the other hand, stood at the side, its black fur standing on end as it bared its teeth and blew at Miao Yixiong. Shiju, Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Hearing its master's voice, Shiju's arrogance instantly dropped as it whimpered a few times towards Yiqing Luo in grievance. It's not its fault Grandma Bu's neck was being grabbed. Although Miao Yixiong didn't use much strength, but she was after all an ordinary person, and he was already old, so his words sounded weak. It's us ourselves. We don't want to drag you down, so we left its back, hoping to let it help you. So, sorry, young lady, we've dragged you down again. Elder T was filled with guilt. Chapter 2483. The Miao tribe seal was released. That would definitely be disadvantageous to the young lady. A Miao tribe leader plus the so-called seal. The Tubu elders were worried that the young lady couldn't handle it alone, so they thought of using this battle pet to help the young lady. Whoever knew, they ended up dragging the young lady down. To let the young lady be coerced by the Miao tribe leader because of them, it's all right. Yiqing Luo spoke softly as she comforted the Tubu elders. Don't be afraid, he won't touch you. Whether he moves or not depends on your performance. Miao Yixiong finally had a hostage to restrain Yi Luo and heaved a sigh of relief. But at the same time, there were some doubts in his heart. Wasn't it said that Yi Luo was someone from another continent? Why was he so familiar with the Bu family village? Everyone could see that. Yiqing Luo was very concerned about the two Bu elders. She didn't even hesitate to enter the Miao tribe alone to save them. In his mind, he suddenly remembered what third Elder Miao had said before. Yi Luo was most likely related to the missing Miao tribe trader in the Bu family village. This thought made Miao Yixiong's expression congeal. He raised his malicious eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Leave the seal and come over here. He paused and hurriedly shook his head. Wait, don't come over. You, stand over there. Miao Yixiong pointed to a place opposite him. Miao Yixiong knew that he wasn't Yi Luo's opponent. If Yi Luo went near him, there was a high possibility that he would save the hostage. This was his only bargaining chip now. Yiqing Luo didn't make any sarcastic remarks this time. Instead, she directly walked towards the direction that Miao Yixiong pointed. Seeing Yiqing Luo being so obedient, Miao Yixiong heaved a sigh of relief. Before he opened his mouth, He was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo coldly. You want the antidote? Antidote? Naturally. Miao Yixiong's words were swallowed back as he answered Yi Qing Luo's question. But immediately, his expression suddenly turned gloomy. But, young lady, the bargaining chip is in my hands now, so you should be the one begging me. If you want these two people to live, then listen to me obediently. Miao Yixiong's tone was extremely arrogant, as though he wanted to get back at Yi Qing Luo for all the humiliation he had suffered previously. All right, go ahead. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she generously spread out her hands. She moved. Miao Yixiong cautiously grabbed the necks of the Bu family's elders and took a few steps back. You, don't move. I won't move. Yi Qing Luo smiled even more indifferently. But the more she laughed, the more she laughed. In Miao Yixiong's eyes, the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. Now you know how to be obedient. In order to suppress the strange feeling in his heart, Miao Yixiong focused his attention on Yi Qing Luo. This arrogant little girl was now so obedient. It was enough to prove that the two elders of the Bu family were very important to her. His eyes turned cold, and suddenly he sneered. Little girl, I am not a narrow-minded person. How about you kneel down in front of me now and kowtow to me twice? Then the matter of you poisoning Rong, trespassing into the Miao tribe, and even breaking the seal that the Miao tribe had guarded for 700 years will be written off. No, no way. The two elders of the Bu family immediately stopped him when they heard that. How could they possibly let the young lady kneel down for them? Although they had not spent much time with the young lady. But they were clear. The young lady was an extremely confident person. It was absolutely impossible for her to lower her head to anyone. Such a proud and unyielding young lady. Chapter 2484. Most importantly, even if Yi Qing Luo was willing, they weren't willing. Shut up. Miao Yixiong shouted coldly as his hands exerted more strength. Bu Lao coughed violently as both of their hands tried to break the fingers on their necks. Looking at the two of them who were like ants being pinched in her palms, struggling on their deathbed, Miao Yixiong finally had the pleasure of being able to hold his head high in the air. Thinking of how he had begged Yi Qing Luo several times to give him the antidote. Thinking of Yi Qing Luo's high and mighty attitude of not giving him any charity. Miao Yixiong's eyes were burning with excitement. Kneel down. Quickly kneel down. No. No. Before Elder T could finish his words, his neck was strangled by a force. He cried out miserably as his body stiffened and his struggling stopped as his eyelids started to roll. Yi Luo, if you don't kneel down, I will kill this old man, and then this old woman. Miao Yixiong couldn't wait to see Yi Qing Luo being trampled under his feet. He was the dignified Miao clan leader. He had always been high up. How could he suffer a loss in the hands of a young lady time and time again? He wanted to destroy this humiliation. He was still the noble Miao clan leader. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was fixed on Elder T without blinking. Looking at Elder T's pale face and eyelids rolling outwards, as though he was on his last breath. Her gaze turned colder and colder. That gaze made Miao Yixiong's heart tremble for no reason. You, how dare you look at me with such a gaze? Miao Yixiong instinctively took a few steps back. You're not allowed to look. I order you to kneel on the ground and look at me pitifully while wagging your tail. He was shouting so fiercely, but his hands had subconsciously loosened the grip on the two old men. How would he dare to kill the two Bulao heir? This was his only bargaining chip. Why? Miao clan leader, you've captured two hostages, and this is your only request? Yi Qing Luo finally opened her mouth. Her voice was cold, and no one could tell the emotions in her words. Miao Yixiong clenched his teeth as he growled fiercely. Right. This is my only request. Are you going to kneel or not? I won't kneel. Yi Qing Luo spat out two decisive words. Good, very good. You don't want to kneel? If you don't kneel, I'll kill him. Miao Yixiong's eyes were red with anger. He raised the arm that was strangling Elder T. He threatened, hoping to see a flustered expression on Yi Qing Luo's face. But Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards as she smiled gently. Meow tribe leader, do you really dare to attack? Her smile was filled with disdain and ridicule. Her long and narrow eyes slowly turned contemptuous. As long as something happens to them, the next person to die will be you. Her voice was soft. It was a very unusual conversational tone. Every word was like a hammer to Miao Yixiong's heart. He was so terrified that even his pores were dilating and his body was trembling. Miao Yixiong knew this very well. Yi Luo was serious. She had the absolute strength and confidence to kill him. Moreover, if he was the slightest bit careless, there was a high possibility that Yi Luo could save the Tubu Lao heir from his hands. After thinking for a moment, Miao Yixiong's arrogance gradually dissipated. His two hands loosened from the Tubu Lao heirs' necks and grabbed their shoulders instead. Chapter 2485. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes in interest. This Miao tribe leader was really rather adaptable to circumstances. He could be high and mighty in an instant, and he could be humble in an instant, freely retreating and advancing. Suddenly, she understood the reason why he was able to sit on the position of tribe leader for such a long time. After all, if one was shameless, he would be invincible. Seeing Yiqing Luo staring at him with a smile, which didn't look like a smile, Miao Yixiong felt goosebumps. He understood her emotions and moved her with reason. This is the Miao tribe's forbidden grounds. What you just opened is the seal that the Miao tribe had been guarding for 700 years. Luckily, this seal is not completely opened, and there's still one last layer of seal left. If the last layer of seal is opened, not only the Miao tribe will be in danger, the entire Nirvana realm will be affected and affected. Both of us are injured, so there's no way you can leave this place. So now, I should have the conditions to discuss the deal with you. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her gaze slowly fell onto that crack which had split open. What kind of seal is this? Yiqing Luo didn't answer Miao Yixiong's deal, but asked the doubt in her heart. The Miao tribe's seal. Why would it have such a huge impact on her? Miao Yixiong frowned as he felt displeased, but he had no choice but to answer. I'm not too sure what it is exactly. This is the ancestral order passed down by our ancestors. Every generation of tribe leader has to do their best to protect this seal from being opened. Yiqing Luo nodded her head thoughtfully. Yi Luo, if you want to leave this forbidden grounds, only I can help you. So if you give me the antidote, I will let the three of you leave immediately and promise that I will not find any trouble with anyone in the Bu family village. Miao Yixiong saw that Yiqing Luo wasn't going to mention about the deal, so he might as well tell her his conditions directly. Why should I believe you? Yiqing Luo shrugged. You hate me and need the Bu family village's people to find a traitor. If I give you the antidote, will you really let the three of us leave? Miao Yixiong's eyes flashed as his expression gradually turned cold. You can only choose to believe me. He paused for a moment. The expression on his face gradually became ferocious, adding a hint of madness. Yi Luo, you should know that if Miao Rongrong dies, she won't be able to become the Holy Maiden, and I'll be ruined. Since I'm ruined, why don't we all die together? Yiqing Luo could tell that when Miao Yixiong said these words, his eyes were almost bloodshot red, filled with madness and a trace of chilliness. He was serious. If he destroys himself, in that case, he might as well destroy everything. Yiqing Luo scoffed in disdain. A selfish person like Miao Yixiong was truly cold-blooded and emotionless. He had asked her for the antidote time and time again. It was not for Miao Rongrong's life. It was because Miao Rongrong was about to become the holy maiden of the Miao tribe. If he was destroyed, might as well destroy everything and be buried with him. Little girl, now, you only have one choice. You can only choose to believe me. Miao Yixiong didn't care about what Yiqing Luo was thinking about him. You must know that your ability alone is strong, but with these two burdens dragging you down, don't even think of leaving the Miao tribe easily. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. Her eyes were filled with a chilly intent. After some time, her eyes swept past the two Bu family elders and immediately closed her eyes as she opened her mouth. Ah! Chapter 2486. Granny Boo's body smashed heavily into the stone wall beside her. The old lady's weak body was trembling in pain from this sudden fall. In the next moment, Elder T took this opportunity to shake off Miao Yixiong's arm and rush to Grandma Boo's side. Grandpa Boo, Grandma Boo. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She didn't expect them to use such a method to escape from Miao Yixiong's restraint. She hurriedly looked at Shi Ju. Shi Ju understood, and its huge body flew towards the direction of the two Boo elders. Miao Yixiong was shocked. The two Boo elders were his only bargaining chips with Yiqing Luo. He absolutely could not let them return to Yiqing Luo's side. He didn't have a second chance to restrain Yiqing Luo. However, what no one had expected was, after the two Boo elders broke free from Miao Yixiong's restraint, they didn't escape towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Instead, they headed towards the crack, which was emitting a faint green light not too far away. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as she suddenly realized something. Grandpa Boo, Grandma Boo, you don't do anything silly. I said I can bring you. Young lady. Elder T, who was standing in front of the crack, stopped in his tracks. That wrinkled face revealed a comfortable smile for the first time since today's thrilling journey. His hand in Grandma Boo's hand held tightly. Don't come over. He looked at Miao Yixiong without a trace of fear. Come over and we'll jump down. Miao Yixiong stopped in his tracks. Shi Ju also stopped. Two people and one beast stared intently at the two Boo elders. Shi Ju stopped because he was afraid that something would happen to them. And Miao Yixiong stopped because he was afraid that he would lose the bargaining chip to restrain Yiqing Luo. Grandpa Boo. Yiqing Luo's fingers curled tightly. You come with Shi Ju, I can bring you away. The two Boo elders looked at each other and smiled. Their brows were filled with gentleness. Young lady, thank you for everything you have done for the Boo family village. Thank you for caring for me and old madam. Elder T smiled contentedly as he said every word. His voice was on the verge of choking. We don't want to be your burden. We don't want to see you suffer because of us. As Elder T spoke, tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. You are a good girl with a kind heart. We can't bear to see such a good girl like you suffer for us. Grandpa Boo. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. She, who had never been rich in emotions, couldn't help but feel a sour feeling at the corner of her eyes. I'm not making things difficult for you, and you're not my burden. In the beginning, she had helped them in the Boo family village. It was because the simplicity of the Boo family village had moved her. He was used to the darkness of the world. She could see a trace of clean color, which made her feel very comfortable. Later, she came to the Miao tribe and saved the two elders of the Boo family. Part of the reason was because of Miao Yi. But more than that, it was because she really felt sorry for the Boo family's elders. She didn't like to meddle in other people's business. However, he was not a cold and heartless person. She was serious about saving the two elders of the Boo family and bringing them away from the Miao tribe. Chapter 2487. I think the old man should have told you about our matters. Back then, for the future of the next generation, I brought my family and moved to Qinghua City. Our village, at least 30 over people, brought their families along with them. But we had just left the Boo family village when we were stopped by the Miao people. Grandma Boo stared at Miao Yixiong with her teary eyes. Her eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. The Miao people carried out a brutal massacre on us without any explanation. The 30 over people who left the Boo family village, from the elderly to the newborn babies, all died tragically in the hands of the Miao people. Those people were the hope of the Boo family village, the few youngsters. All died in front of my eyes. My son and daughter are all dead. Only I survived. Shut up. Miao Yixiong's heart trembled. What he was afraid of was not Grandma Boo's hatred towards him, but he was afraid that Grandma Boo's words would bring out Yiqing Luo's hatred towards the Miao people and seek revenge for Grandma Boo. Grandma Boo gave a low laugh. Her laughter was filled with pain and mournfulness. Miao Yixiong. What people do, the heavens are watching. It's not that revenge is not coming. It's just that it's not time yet. You killed so many people in my Boo family village. In the future, don't even think about having a peaceful day. Miao Yixiong, the old man, and I swear on our lives that even if we become ghosts, we will never let you off. We will turn into malicious spirits and haunt you forever." She laughed. The hoarse and aged voice had a hint of delight in it. She laughed for a long time. She slowly looked towards Yi Qing Luo. The craziness on her face slowly turned gentle. "Young lady, I'm sorry, really sorry. If it's possible, I hope you can avenge those innocent villagers in the Bu family village so that we can die without regrets." Grandma Yi Qing Luo understood Grandma Bu's current feelings. Seeing her own kin, her neighbors and good friends who had accompanied her for decades, die in front of her. No matter who it was, no one would be able to tolerate it. Grandma Bu had endured for such a long time. That was her biggest limit. And if it wasn't for Yi, I would have died when the Bu family village was massacred. She is a pitiful lady, without parents and no one to rely on. If it's possible, please help us. Take good care of her. Grandma Bu. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled violently. She shouted at Shijue, quick! Bring Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu over. Roar! Shiju roared, and its body turned into a bolt of black lightning, rushing toward the Bu family's two elders. However, in the end, Shijue was a step too late. The Bu family's two elders had already made up their minds. He didn't give Yi Qing Luo any chance to persuade him to stay. At the moment when Shiju pounced over, they clasped their hands and looked at each other. Her eyes were filled with a warm smile. Then he leaped into the crack, and both of them fell into the jade-green light. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Grandpa Bu, Grandma Bu. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as she stared blankly at that crack. The two elders of the Bu family didn't want to be a burden to her. Resolutely, he chose death. They knew very well that in this battle between Gu masters and Xian cultivators, they were ordinary people. He would only be a burden. Therefore, in order to let her not feel guilty, in order to let her leave with peace of mind. Chapter 2488. No, no. Miao Yixiong was filled with terror as he staggered backwards a few steps. His back was plastered tightly against the wall. Beads of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He had lost his bargaining chip and hostage. How was he going to negotiate with Yi Qing Luo? Especially, his attitude earlier had completely infuriated Yi Qing Luo. If Yi Qing Luo wanted to kill him, in this place, this forbidden place, which was isolated from the Miao tribe, he had no way to resist at all. Especially, earlier before Grandma Bu died, she specially requested Yi Qing Luo to avenge the people in the Bu family village. Yi Qing Luo was so concerned about that old fellow in the Bu family village. She would definitely kill him. The more Miao Yixiong thought, the more terrified he was. His entire body was trembling with fear. No way. He absolutely cannot sit still and wait for death. He was the clan leader of the Miao tribe. How could he lose to a young lady? Miao Yixiong's vision slowly shifted to the side, where the worm-shaped hole was. A plan was formed in his mind. Just at this moment, there was a violent tremor in the hole. In an instant, rays of light that were as sharp as blades rippled out from the surroundings like waves. Boom, boom, boom. A few loud sounds were heard as the ground shook. The four walls, which were as hard as iron, were sliced apart layer by layer. The jade-green rays on the broken walls were piercingly cold. Extremely neat. This violent tremor, it made Yi Qing Luo and Shiju unable to stand stably. Yi Qing Luo summoned Shiju back into the pet space and swiftly avoided the falling stones. Her peripheral vision swept past the crack behind her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed past a sliver of disbelief and astonishment. That crack was surging with countless waves of jade-green rays, as though it was going to swallow everything in this hole. Oh no, the seal. The seal has been unlocked. Miao Yixiong stared at the sky, full of jade-green rays, like waves, lingering around the entire hole. His legs felt weak as he laid paralyzed on the ground. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were pierced by the jade-green rays. What did Miao Yixiong say? The seal has been broken? In his mind, Old Man Song's lamenting voice rang out. So, The final layer of the seal requires a husband and wife who possess absolute true feelings as a sacrifice. A freak combination of factors actually undid the Meow tribe's seal. In other words, Grandpa Boo and Grandma Boo both jumped into this so-called seal and became sacrifices to break the seal. The Meow tribe had guarded the seal for 700 years. It was unlocked. What exactly is this? Yi-Ching Luo had yet to finish her question. A majestic pressure completely enveloped her. The jade-green light devoured everything about her. All of his strength seemed to have been sucked out of him. His consciousness gradually faded away. His body weakly fell backwards. But Yi-Ching Luo didn't feel the pain from falling onto the ground. Her body was embraced into a greeting embrace. Yi-Ching Luo's breathing paused as she opened her eyes hazily. In his mind, a peerless, demonic face of peerless elegance appeared. The man smiled at her. She was like a fox, charming and alluring. Her pink lips moved slightly as she silently spat out 2 words. Xian. Was Xian here? Once again, when she met with a predicament, he was like a deity descending from the heavens. But what entered her nose was an extremely elegant plum fragrance. No, this wasn't Xian's smell. This person wasn't Xian. Yi-Ching Luo's breathing became hurried. She wanted to struggle, but her entire body had no energy at all. The more anxious she was, the further her consciousness drifted. Ding! A melodious sound was heard from the pendant on Yi-Ching Luo's neck. Following that, a ray of light flashed out from that pendant. Chapter 2489. Inside the underground cave. Just as Yi-Ching Luo was engulfed by the jade light, a stone wall in the underground cave was blasted apart by a powerful force. Following that, a tall figure sped over. That pair of ink-like deep eyes saw the young lady who was descending from midair. That frozen face revealed a sliver of panic. He speedily went forward and held the young lady's soft body firmly in his arms. He lowered his eyes and gazed deeply at the young lady in his arms. His cold eyes gradually surfaced a sliver of gentleness and deep affection. Yi-Ching Luo. His voice was low and lingering, as though he was calling out his most beloved person's name. So affectionate. The young lady's slender brows creased slightly. Following that, her pink lips opened and closed, as though she wanted to raise her hand to pull him. The young man's eyes were filled with joy as he raised his hand and was about to hold the young lady's hand tightly. But, after seeing the shape of the young lady's mouth, the smile on his face slowly faded away. He regained his usual indifference, as though he was covered with frost. Xian. The person she was calling was DMO Xian. The surrounding jade light was like a wild beast that was brandishing its claws and fangs, swallowing everything. But when the jade light touched the red-robed young man, it avoided him like a snake or scorpion. The jade light swallowed everything in this underground cave, but it forcefully separated the young man. Yi-Ching Luo. The young man's voice was a little hoarse. He called out Yi-Ching Luo's name word by word. His voice was cold and emotionless. You are mine. The person in your heart can only be me. The young man muttered softly. His voice was stubborn. He fixed his gaze on the young lady in his arms. His icy cold eyes flashed a sliver of red glow. Suddenly, he bent his head and kissed Yi-Ching Luo's lips, just at the moment when he bent over. Ding! A crisp sound was heard in the silent underground cave. It was extremely clear. The young man had yet to touch Yi-Ching Luo's lips. His eyes were stung by the intense white light in front of him. He had no choice but to dodge backwards. He raised his other hand to block his eyes. Bam! A gust of wind from a palm landed on his chest. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels felt like the world was turning upside down, and he was in extreme pain. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body was sent flying. The girl in his arms was also taken away by an invisible force. Yi-Ching Luo. The young man's cold eyes froze, and he didn't even bother to wipe off the blood by the side of his mouth, as he immediately flew up and charged towards Yi-Ching Luo. It was as if the person who had just been slapped and vomited blood was not him at all. In his eyes, There was only Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxin, you want to take advantage of my absence to molest my woman? Are you courting death? A mellow voice faintly sounded. When the youth heard this voice, his body froze, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. It was as if he couldn't believe it. How could that person appear here? Green light flickered. Gradually, a tall and straight figure appeared in front of him. His purple robe fluttered, and he stood tall and straight. On that peerless face, his thin lips were pursed into a thin line, and his face was filled with displeasure. This man, just by standing in front of him, Zhu Wuxin felt a powerful pressure that was continuously exerting on him. Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes flickered slightly as he slowly met the man's eyes, which could shake everything in the world. Overlord, he spat out the words coldly as his vision shifted as it focused on the unconscious young lady in his arms. Give her to me. The man's deep and handsome face surfaced a sliver of coldness. This Overlord's woman naturally has this Overlord's protection. She's mine. Zhu Wuxin didn't give in at all. She has always belonged to me. DMO Xian's eyes turned slightly cold as he lazily squinted his peach blossom eyes as his lips curled in disdain. Following that, his finger hooked lightly as he lifted Yiqing Luo's lower jaw.